everybody. Welcome. Welcome to a special session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll be sitting as all special taxing districts. As this is May 3rd, 2022, 9 a.m. Board members can attend either physically or the telephone or remotely. Everybody's here, so this is the call to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Lyon.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I keep thinking he's going to do this in Spanish. He just came back from Spain, so. Hey, he doesn't.
You know, we're going to bring a dead horse and sit up here so he can
I'm
whip
going to keep saying this until everybody in the county knows.
Mr. Chairman. It was for business.
All right, this is a special session, so we do have an item, it's called to the public. The call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute, action taken as a result of a public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, respond to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion or any decision at a future date. A call to the public will remain open during the whole meeting in case somebody comes up and wants to address something that isn't necessarily on the agenda. So, does anybody have anything to bring forth that isn't in the agenda? If not, we'll move on into discussion and action items, and the first item in the agenda will be a briefing by the budget review team regarding the fiscal year 2022 budget. No, Susan, you don't need to go through the whole budget again, and just go to get us going.
Right. Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Today we have the continuation of our budget sessions from yesterday afternoon to this morning. And we did provide a briefing of the budget yesterday, and we also, all of the members here present have received information related to the items that were recommended in their budgets, and so they're able to answer any questions that you might have. And we're going to be starting with Sheriff.
All right. Well, it's tough not to see him. He's back there dressed in blue.
Turquoise.
Oh, yeah, turquoise blue with this hat. So, Sheriff, come up.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. You will have a handout that will have page numbers, and it's for May 3rd. You'll find the recommended budget for the Sheriff's Office on page 1, and the decision packages on page 3. And Sheriff Wilmot is available for questions.
Sheriff, how you like your budget?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, because I got a lot of judges sitting here today, I'll try to keep it, kind of short.
Sweet.
First and foremost, I just want to thank the board for all of the work that you do in regards to our community. Speaking with other sheriffs throughout the state, they're not as fortunate as we are in Yuma County that their board is engaged as they are, not only for public safety, but for addressing the needs of Yuma County citizens, which is vitally important. And it's pretty nice to hear what they deal with in regards to their boards and their budgets compared to what we deal with here. So I want to thank you for your levels of engagement in the community. I want to thank Susan, the budget review team, Ian, for everything that we've had to deal with this past year, and then working on the budget. They've been right there side by side with us. Obviously with the jail, it's one of the oldest county buildings, and we're starting to see the age of that building and all the different needs that it's needing to keep up to date. So I want to thank each and every one of them for their hard work, and our finance, working with the county's finance team on bringing us to where we're at today. So. And
I want to say, Sheriff, that you do a different kind of job than other counties do. Having been next to the border makes it a very different, very difficult job, and you guys handle it pretty well. As far as I'm concerned, we're lucky to have leadership like yours handling a lot of this stuff, because it isn't normal, it isn't every day. If there's something that you can always count on your job, it's not going to be the same as yesterday. Something new is going to happen. So people need to be aware that that's not an easy job to do. You don't go to work at an 8-to-5 job, for sure. And none of your officers probably do that. So it's a balancing act. I will give you that, yes, sir. So, but
working with the budget team, we worked through everything that we needed to, and unless you have some specific questions.
Any questions?
I do. You requested a new position for IT security analyst and cybersecurity control ACIP self-insurance, and it wasn't recommended. Is there a reason why you need those, or is there a reason why they weren't?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Supervisor Pancrezi,
You want me to answer it, or you want to answer?
well, there was a question in the very beginning on regards to, obviously, we're under the Arizona County Insurance Pool, and then there was, I want to say, a thought that the county was going to separate. So there was contingencies put into place, as I understand it, in
Okay.
regards to that maybe happening when, so that question was asked and answered by our county administrator, and then we went back to, because we're not separating from ASIP.
Good,
So
okay, and I see it down here under cybersecurity control ACIP supplies and services. Good.
Correct.
Okay, so I can just cross these off. Okay, thank you.
Sheriff, if you're happy, we're happy. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
And good luck with that helicopter.
I wouldn't have brought it up.
So, since we're on that subject, though, Mr. Chair, members of the board,
Mr. Chair, do you have to check with the county attorney first? Because that was yesterday.
But it is their budget. It was an item in the agenda yesterday, but it's part of their budget.
Okay.
Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't have all day, Sheriff. You guys,
I
like,
wanna hear
we
about
talked about it, but,
and I want to thank you for that. Yesterday, I was outside waiting in case there were some questions. But in regards to that, Yuma County, for so many years, fought to try to keep MCAS SAR. They were a vital part of our community, and we utilize them a lot because obviously during the winter season, we get a lot of individuals that are out in our desert exploring, and unfortunately, we do have incidents involving rescues. Now, as you mentioned with the border situation, we've had over 36 deaths out in the remote desert, as well as almost 400 911 calls from individuals that have been abandoned in the desert. So with us being able to obtain that funding for that platform to be able to expedite our officers getting out into the field and doing a rescue versus a recovery, it was a no-brainer for us because we no longer have that ability with MCAS search and rescue. So to me, from a public safety humanitarian side, we need to address that as well as the fact that we do have that criminal element out east exploiting our desert with the amounts of narcotics that are coming across. DPS did a 6-day detail just on Interstate 8, and over 700 pounds of hard narcotics was intercepted coming up through the desert. So that's why that platform was requested, and we were approved for that. So thank you.
the only, oh, no, the only thing I had a problem with, it wasn't a bigger one, because it is a small 4-seater that it's going to be difficult to do on rescues to be able to accommodate people. I mean, look, what we lost was a pretty well set up, system of a large Huey that could actually pick people up and take them. This one, when I look at the picture, it looked like a regular 4-seater that you can use for surveillance, that you can use to go find, go someplace. But it'd be difficult for me to see how you can adapt one of those little ones to do the kind of search and rescue that we lost, unfortunately. I think it's going to do its job, but I think eventually you're going to be asking for a little bigger helicopter, a little bigger, more sizable unit that can help you with those search and rescue operations, because this one is more, from what I saw anyway, it's a smaller area, it's a smaller unit.
It's a smaller platform, but it has the ability for baskets to be put on the skids to be able to carry individuals that are injured versus people that we can put in the back seat. So
Must be here
depending on the
be
situation.
carried in a basket, helicopter. But anyway, look, whatever helps, it helps. And we are more than willing to work with you guys when you feel that you need something need something added to what you already have. And a platform like that is certainly something that was coming. It was a matter of time. I mean, the kind of work you guys do, it's going to be not a want, it's a need. You need that thing in there.
Especially up north too for our winter visitors where we've had individuals and we can't leave them there. And unfortunately, DPS takes 1 to 2 days to get to Yuma County to be able to assist us in our searches and the rescues out there and recoveries, so.
We'll see how the platform works. If it works, it works. If
We'll
it
try
not,
it.
we'll look at, something that may, do the job. All right, well, thank you. Is that the question you had? Supervisor Lane, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to talk about, or ask the sheriff if that would have helped last week when we had the incursion from Mexico.
I think having that presence might have assisted with deterring that. It's unfortunate that Yuma County has had that many incursions this 6 months into the year. My last numbers was 170 that were apprehended by our federal partners, which is tying their resources up from being out on the border. So we're trying to help fill that gap, but it might have helped, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sheriff. Thank you.
Next, we have County Recorder in elections. County Recorder Robin Paquette's available. The recommended budget begins on page 5. Decision packages on page 6.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. We want to thank the BRT for their support and their hard work in the season. And we want to give a special thank you to HR. Human Resources Department worked diligently with myself and Elections Director Tiffany Anderson to identify positions that we needed to study. So those market studies took some time and some focus to work through with HR. So we want to say thank you, and we want to thank the board for recognizing the importance of paying the employees a comparable rate to retain that expertise in Yuma County, especially in light of an evolving real estate market and title industry, and of course, an ever-changing election environment. So I do look forward to working with OMB in the future or this following year, especially because we're in an election cycle, to establish reoccurring budget authority appropriate for the model that we've established for ballot distribution and voter notices. That line item that was approved for this budget year, upcoming budget years, in contract services. So we're very excited that that particular service, we will be able to make it a much more efficient process of distributing ballots as they're requested, and utilize county resources responsibly to make sure that we're serving the voters of Yuma County and maintaining a high level, a high standard of integrity in our community for Yuma elections. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
is there anything still pending at the legislature that might cause you concern?
Chairman
Or
Reyes,
affect your budget?
members of the board, I believe there's 23 bills that are still pending that do affect our offices. I don't believe we've identified any that will have a budgetary impact for this coming year.
Okay.
How y'all coming with your move?
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, it's going well. If you'd like to come pack with us, we are packing. We expect to be moved over to 102 Main Street.
The
The
week
16th?
of May 16th will be our move.
Well, the building is coming along, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The building is coming right along. I went with Susan the other day and checked it all out. It's coming along just fine.
You know, ribbon cutting?
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, I want to extend our gratitude for that move. We feel like we have an appropriate amount of space for our staff to be all in working together collaboratively, as well as a larger space to accommodate early in-person voting, which since the 2020 election cycle has been increasingly popular with our voters. And so we want to make sure that we do have the ability to accommodate larger voters early
Larger
without
voters.
a wait.
A larger number of voters, I hope.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, please stop over if you get an opportunity to just peek in. The doors are open, and GCI has been over there working. I think they're working weekends. They work 7 days a week to get this done.
Just let us know when it's all set up and we'll.
Yeah, we'll go as soon as we don't have to do any physical moving.
Some furniture assembly and thank you.
Yeah, we'll do a ribbon cut. All
Thank you.
right, thanks. Thanks, ladies.
Have a good day.
Next, we have County Treasurer, Chief Deputy County Treasurer Vanessa Valenzuela is available for questions. The recommended budget begins on page 7. Decision packages, page 8.
And let me, before you begin, say something. I like this. I really do. I think it helps a lot, and it's just quick. and you can get to it right away, and, you know,
Yes.
it really helps a lot. Thank you. for
Thank
making
you.
it. Go ahead.
Here on behalf of Treasurer Angela Moreno, we are pleased with the budget that's being recommended to the board, and I'm here to answer any questions.
If you're happy, we're happy. Because everything is recommended. Normally, what we get is questions for something that wasn't recommended, so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have County Assessor Victoria Clarkson. County Assessor is available. Recommended budget begins on page 9. Decision packages begin on page 10.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am very happy with my budget, just so you know, and I want to give a big thank you to the budget review team and human resources. They exceed our expectations every year, and they continue to make this budget process much easier. But I am happy with my budget.
All right, well, I mean,
Your location.
oh,
Oh, it is 1,000,000% better. I mean, we are so happy. We're still unpacking, and we are very happy. The morale is great over there. The breathing is better. It is, yeah, we're very happy. So thank you for approving us to move over there. And facilities has been great. We're still working on some things. Ian's going to come over this afternoon for some things, but they've just been great. I mean, anything that we need, like that, they're there, and they just say yes to everything. So it's great. Who doesn't want to hear yes? So, but yeah, we're happy with our budget. We're happy with our move, and we're happy with everything. So,
Thank you.
don't keep asking any more questions. If you're happy, we're happy. Thank you very much.
awesome. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Next is Constables 1 and 2.
Constable number 2 was unable to attend due to a family emergency, but he did mention he was happy with his budget.
He called me up. Are they
Next,
okay?
we have
Sorry, continue.
Next, we have School Superintendent Elizabeth Valenzuela. Chief Deputy School Superintendent is available for any questions. Recommended budget begins page 13. Decision packages, page 14.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Our department is also pleased with our recommended budget. I want to thank Human Resources. They helped us with a market study this year to compensate our staff who had not been reclassified for, Alicia, since 2005. So I really want to say thank you for that, and to the budget review team as well for all of your help. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. You have any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the County Attorney's Office. John Smith, County Attorney, is available. The recommended budget begins on page 15. Decision packages, page 16.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, I'm fine with the budget as recommended.
The BRT, I have one. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
But
ahead.
one at a time.
Mr. Chair.
So Supervisor Brinker.
I want to put the new position, legal secretary for the specialty courts. I think that we need one of those, and I think we need to put it on the end so that he can
Talk about it.
talk about it later. And because we have the Veterans Court and we have mental health court, and the two courts do need somebody to oversee those.
We also have drug court, 2 of them.
And drug court, yes. I know, that's been there for a while, yeah. So, okay, I'm done.
Go ahead, Supervisor Lyons.
My question was along the same lines, but just wanted John to talk a little bit more about how that position would be utilized, if it is indeed specifically for those things or anything else.
Right, so the administration of those cases as they move through our office, a lot of it's highly administrated at the court level, but we're also moving out for greater pre-conviction deferments, which require more administrative task on our part. In addition, our community justice boards, which isn't exactly part of the specialty court, but it is a restorative justice program, has been trying to expand out.
Oh, I love
Those
that.
individuals go after hours to meet with those volunteer groups and set those courts up. And for a while, we were just stagnant during the pandemic, but now it's wide open and it's really running smooth and good.
Good.
I'm going to let the process go through all the way to the end, but there's a process that is followed to determine what's recommended and not.
Yeah,
And it isn't this way. You know, every department gets to fight for those positions, and every department, when we ask someone, are you okay with your budget? I suppose that everybody's going to say no if I have a position that hasn't been filled. And if we as supervisors decide that every time something is, denied by the budget review team, and we're gonna check it at the end, it's going to mess up with the system really bad, because then you would all have to come to us for every position that you don't get. And I really don't look forward to that. But so I just wanted to make a point. When I'm asking you if you're okay with your budget, I suppose that in some ways I'm asking you, are you okay with not having something recommended? If you're not, then I need you to make that point when you come in front of us, so that, otherwise we're going to have everybody wait until the end to make the points for every position that was denied, or most positions that were denied. And I want to take the time that we allocated for your department for you to make those arguments. Otherwise, at the end, we're going to have a bunch of positions that weren't approved discussed again, and I'm going to need everybody that already made the presentation to come back and just do a presentation on what you're missing. That is not a process that I want to go through with everything. Yeah, if there's a reason why you want to argue a position, do it now so that we can get to the end and not have to tie you up again at the end of this hearing, okay? Do you want to argue for that position?
Yeah.
Chairman, I trust the judgment of the BRT this morning. I'm ready to move forward. If they believe that this was based upon the request, I understand there was 42 or 45 requests for new positions. This is something I'm looking at another funding source for, possibly, and I'm not ready to move forward and argue for it this morning.
All right, I want to make sure that those words stay. There are 45 positions that were requested. There were how many approved? 16, 17? How many? 17. That leaves almost 30, or somewhere close to 20-some positions that weren't approved. If we're going to go through this process of getting back and discussing every one of them after we've asked every department, are you okay with the recommendation? We're going to have a long, long discussion at the end, and I'm going to have to bring back every department head. Okay, so I'm asking you again, are you okay with the budget recommendation?
I'm okay with the budget recommendation, and the only fallout from not having this position is the lack of expansion of the program.
All right, okay.
For this year. I will be back
Supervisor Pancrase has requested that it be put at the end of the meeting. So if you want to argue, those points, you're going to have to remain for the end of the meeting, okay?
I'm here all day.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And you will be here with us all day, right? Keep Tony in line. But
Difficult to do.
I know.
It's
But you will
difficult.
be back next year to request that same funding?
I will request this position and the other one at that time as well. There was an IT position that we went into a new case management program. It's highly effective. It's so much so that we have difficulty based upon our ability in my office technologically to understand the full potential of it. At the same time, IT is strapped with what they can do. They suggested maybe a hybrid position. We're getting by with making it work now. There was a sort of a halfway point with the budget review team to allow us, if we had to hire some contractors to go out for at least for doing records requests and things like that. But I'll be back on that one too next year.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Does that position require a background check?
It would, all people in my office generally who work there, especially with some of those, they do go through a background check through my office.
All right, John.
Someone you're recommending that may not pass?
No.
You opened up with an attorney.
No. Mr. Chairman, I was trying to walk through this yesterday with John after we had the IT presentation.
Okay.
To see why they had standalone departments. And so he spoke about background checks being required at the DPS level for anybody working in his office through IT.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to understand why we had compartmentalized IT for the county.
It's not new. I don't believe it's new. I think we've done this with the recorder's office. The hard part is finding the individual to fill the spot, and it is a long process. It's a unique position. These are kind of like information or data scientists, and they go in and with the way technology is advanced and the numerous amounts of public records requests and real-time stats that are being required statutorily as we move forward, it's just going to grow exponentially. So this is it's a discussion point at this point, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Sorry, John, thank you.
No, it's okay, thanks. I appreciate
It
it.
was the wrong question to ask of the attorney. You're gonna be here at the end. You normally are. So, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Superior Court. Presiding Judge Hawes is available. Recommended budget begins on page 17. Decision packages, page 18.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board, County Administrator Thorpe. The courts are happy with the recommended budget. I do want to take a moment to express my appreciation and gratitude to the board and to county administration for the support that we receive in our budget. We particularly, we're pleased with the board's approval of the new division, Division 7. That's been forwarded to the governor's office, who has approved it. We're still waiting for them to announce the position to solicit applications. That will be a great benefit to us as we try to provide access to justice to all the members of our community. Before I became a presiding judge, I had some memories of interactions with the presiding judge and the board in years past that seemed a little difficult and problematic. And so I had some trepidation about taking this position, but I just want to say my experience has been that our relationships and interactions have been very cooperative. I feel like we receive great support from the board. Administrator Thorpe and I have had a good working relationship. I want to tell her I will miss her when she's gone. I appreciate the time she and I would often meet for lunch and just talk about our needs, and I appreciated her willingness to do that. I felt like having that open communication throughout the year really helped at the budget process. I also want to express appreciation to the BRT. They've been very helpful to us, and the communication is very, very good. So our courts we have great people. I appreciate my staff, our court administrator, our budget people, our HR people. We work together. All of us have the goal to make our courts run efficiently and well, and we really appreciate your support.
Just one question from me.
Go ahead.
You requested 2 X-ray machines.
Right.
Yeah. And you got one approved and the other one wasn't. Was there 2 entrances that you wanted to manage?
Not at the Superior Court. It was one for...
I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't ask the right person.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, there was one X-ray machine that was requested, and the alternative was maintenance on the one that we have in service. So it was not for 2 machines for Superior Court.
Yeah, capital outlay, 4,000.
But they both say capital outlay equipment, and I really like to do the capital expenses that are one-timers, right? And security is really high for me as a priority. So when I saw 2, I figured, well, there was 2 entrances you wanted to manage somewhere, and that one of them may help you out. But if you needed to really secure something, if you have 2 entrances and you have 1 X-ray machine, you have to direct everybody to that position.
We have one entrance for the public at Superior Court.
So that's enough, what you got.
The other one is for 4,000 for
Maintenance.
surface maintenance. And
Right.
that's the one that was denied.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you
Judge,
very
thank
much.
you very much. Thank you.
Next, we have Clerk of Superior Court. Clerk of Superior Court Lynn Foss is available. Recommended budget begins on page 20. Decision packages, page 21.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. The clerk's office is happy with the recommendation of the BRT. We are excited about our new Division 7. We've been really doing a lot with, as few people. I say I have a good staff, but the amount of work has been overwhelming. So we're really excited about Division 7. The 2 new positions in my office are going to really enhance that, and they're going to let us do some juggling. We've had a busy year at the clerk's office. Everything is now digital. We're getting ready to do all digital evidence, which is a really big step, and we're making some changes in cooperation with Juvenile Court. So it's been a really busy year, and we're really happy about the changes. But with that comes a lot of taxing other departments, such as the county attorney's office, such as legal defender, public defender, in learning our new system. And it's been a challenge, but
everybody has really stepped up and embraced it, and we're really excited about that. So we're happy and excited about what we've been given, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? No? If you're happy, we're happy.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Next, we have adult probation. Mike Burt, Chief Adult Probation Officer, is available for any questions. Recommended budget begins on page 22. Decision packages, page 23.
Morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Adult probation is very satisfied with the recommendations from the BRT. Take a moment to echo all the appreciation that has already been shared by the folks before me. I think the process since I've been doing it has been extremely smooth, and everybody does tremendous work to help me get through this budget process and our department as well. I've seen nothing but support from this board being in my position. I echo that with my staff frequently, let them know what a wonderful county that we do work in. So thank you very much. Also want to take a moment to plug drug court graduation this month. We're going to graduate our 1,000th graduate. The program's been running since 1998. It's a huge milestone. It's on the 17th at 7 p.m. So
I'm sorry I'm out of town. I wish I could be here.
fine, I know how much you support it. Thank you. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
I'm going to ask you for your barber's address. Because
Next, we have Justice of the Peace,
do that
Precinct
later.
Number 1. Judge Stewart is available. Recommended budget begins on page 24. Decision packages, page 25.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, I'm grateful to be here this morning, and I want to echo really what Judge Hawes had to say earlier. I mean, I've worked now with the county for around 34 years, so I've had the opportunity to work and to work with the board and work with court administrators, work with the county administrator, and so we've been blessed, quite honestly. Very grateful. I've been on the bench now for over 12 years, and just there's been a lot of growth, a lot of change, and I especially want to recognize the budget review team. I want to take a moment to recognize human resources. Our primary concern this year was obviously our staff, and speaking just for Justice Court Precinct 1 alone, and my numbers may be a bit off, but I believe in the span of 12 months we lost approximately 8 staff, those primarily being on our clerks. And so it's a great deal of transition, not only in rehiring those positions, training those individuals, because of the volume of our court. And so with that, we had requested the market study, obviously the request for market reclassification. I would say losing that many staff within the scope of 12 months is probably more than we would lose in a 5-year span combined. So it was a great deal of turnover. We're grateful for the consideration. That was our primary concern. And so on behalf of the Justice Court staff, I want to thank the recommendation that's been made here today. So I'm here to answer any questions. Judge Jones is here. Judge Groh asked if I would stand in for him. Any questions that may be addressed for Justice Court Precinct 2, would be happy to entertain those.
are you okay with the recommendation? Are you okay with your budget? Right. All right. Thank you. I am not really a great fan of market studies. I hear that all the time, and everybody knows that I don't think we've ever had a market study that I can remember that helped us lower anybody's salary, ever. And I've been around for 20-some years. So normally we do market studies to determine how far behind we are in some of these positions. So every time a market study gets approved, I cringe a little because I know what's coming. And we'll be discussing this at the end, the salary increases and how competitive this is. The Sheriff's Department lives that all the time because he's competing with Homeland Security, he's competing with Border Patrol, he's competing with DPS. And it's like, I equate it to the rabbit that Greyhound runs after. It's designed never to catch him. You never catch the rabbit. And in some ways, county government's a little bit like that. We're competing with the city of Yuma. We're competing with other entities. We're always competing with someone. And market studies are always, to me, a tool to find. The attrition rate is what worries me. If we're losing too many people to other people, we've got to make those changes that make working in Yuma County a better place to work in with some of the additional benefits. And I've seen, if you were here yesterday with the presentation from Human Resources, you would understand that we have student assistance loans, we have all kinds of different things, buybacks, PTO buybacks, vacation buybacks. We have so many tools that we try to put in there to make the job be something that you want to be in, you want to go work for the county. But competing for salaries is the toughest thing. But we certainly appreciate the staff. We know that this is not, we're not selling gum, we're not selling anything, we're selling service. And service, when it's done by the people and they're happy to do it, you can tell. And hopefully we will have a somewhat contented workforce. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. We lose them too much.
Chairman Reyes, I'm not sure that necessarily that was a question, but
That wasn't.
I know it was mentioned earlier. I'll just briefly respond. I'm not sure how many years it's been since our staff were reclassified. Obviously, Human Resources would know about that more than I would, but I would certainly say that it's been significant enough that whenever I had gone snow skiing here in northern Arizona at one point this year, as we were going through the McDonald's line, I started to notice not only what they were offering to their employees, but others like Chick-fil-A. No disrespect, but to some of our positions, I think that we struggled to compete. And obviously, we have quality staff. We've also noticed, too, through the pandemic, that our numbers of applicants have declined significantly. And certain individuals that will submit applications don't necessarily show up or don't necessarily want to be interviewed. So it's been more challenging to get quality employees. But obviously, we invest a lot in terms of training those individuals. The other thing I would say that I've noticed respectfully since I began on the bench 12 years ago is, and I'm certainly not pointing fingers, but there are different pay plans between Superior Court and Justice Court, and for that reason, there are promotions not only that become available within our own building, but we end up competing within our own building, and that becomes more challenging. So when we're losing staff to San Luis Municipal Court and Superior Court, I never stand in the way of an employee improving their lot in life. I think it's critical. You only live once, and so if you have the opportunity for promotion or for greater pay, they should seek those avenues. But ultimately, at least within the period that I mentioned of 12 months, we've lost a lot of staff, and for that, it just becomes a point in time where we just have to address it. So, as I mentioned, I'm just grateful for the consideration.
I don't know, that sounds like a long answer to a long question. That wasn't a question.
It sounded
more
like a long answer to no question,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think that we both made our points. And the point is, look, we want to have the best paid employees that we can. Market studies is one way to get to it. And it's just the way it is. And I think over time I learned to accept the fact that if you want to keep people happy, there are. I mean, we've had board members that specifically said, people should be happy because they're working for the county because of the benefits. I'm saying people are happy for whatever reasons make them happy, and it's not necessarily what we think all the time. But a salary increase is normally always makes people happy unless it's too low, which is always the problem. How do you get to a salary increase that keeps up with everything and everybody? These are tough times. We had discussions. Again, I'm going to get into a lot of time.
Chairman Reyes,
are you happy with your budget? It wasn't necessarily a question.
One final point that I would like to make, and just echoing what Chief Adult Probation Officer Mike Bird mentioned, is that with working myself as a presiding judge of Veterans Treatment Court here in Yuma County, and having worked with drug court for a period of 5 years and managing that program, as he's mentioned, I think the 1,000th graduate is a milestone. If not mistaken, the last I checked, we had approximately 200,000 citizens in Yuma County. If that number is accurate, then 1 in 200 have graduated from that program. And given the flow of fentanyl and things across the border, as the sheriff mentioned, it's a tremendous accomplishment. In it, whenever I worked in the program, not only did I track graduation rates, but I also ran criminal histories on everyone that had either successfully completed or failed the program to take a look at the long-term impact. And I had come before the board previously in terms of expanding that program when I worked with it. And quite honestly, the state and the county were very generous in terms of their offers in expanding the program. And so in running those criminal histories, I know for myself personally the impact upon the community and its crime rate. So it is a significant milestone. It's a tremendous accomplishment. I'm very proud of the effort of all the people that have invested in that, from the board to the state, and particularly to the counselors and case managers, the probation officers in terms of their work. So it's certainly a milestone for our county. So
before I forget, I want to acknowledge that Judge Guerrero is back there sitting. I hope everything that's being said you're in agreement with, and that if you had any issues at all, you would come up and let us know, right? Okay, so
Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for being here, Judge. When was the last time that was expanded, and what is the recidivism rate running those criminal histories?
It's very interesting because Mike Bird had shared with me more recently after I was on the bench. I had not known that after I left the program, after I left adult probation, the state came in and audited the program. So really for me, quite honestly, when I took over the program, there were a number of changes that we made. And so obviously I had run my numbers, we supplied those to the state, had run the criminal histories as I mentioned, but it was interesting to see the review of the state, which really just echoed exactly what I had taken and found. And so I'm sure that Mike would be happy to share that with you. I have it as well. It'd be interesting to take a look at, because honestly, what I had seen is when you look at NADCP, which is the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, typically in their studies, they're taking a look out either a year and a half or 2 years, but I was looking at some of the individuals who graduated almost 8 years previously. So I was looking at criminal history as a much longer period of time, but as I recall, 80% of those people who had graduated 2 years post-graduation had not come back to the system for additional convictions. And in taking a look at the people who had been terminated from the program and it went to the Department of Corrections, theirs was essentially just the opposite. 2 years out of the correctional program outside of prison, they were back to the system for another conviction. But Mike could speak to that study more.
Mike? Chairman, Supervisor Lyons. What we did was we wanted to look and see with that expansion, was it beneficial? Our program originally was 12 months in length. It focuses primarily on pre-conviction clients. It expanded into post-conviction, and then we extended the program to an 18-month situation. So we looked at 3 years of the 12 and the 18-month from, I want to say it was 1999 to 2002 and 2007 to 2010, that date range. And I have the report with all those figures that I'll absolutely share with you. But quite frankly, the 18-month program was far superior to the 12-month program. The recidivism rate was, at a level that we were very satisfied with. Currently, at the moment, I have staff tasked to run criminal histories on every pre-conviction case that we've ever had in the program. So we can see really what we've done with those cases that were able to be deferred and not have to come through that criminal justice system with that first felony conviction, to see really what we've done with that. With staffing levels and kind of stuff, we had a hard time getting through that this year, so I'm hoping over the next couple months I'll have those numbers. But I'll absolutely share that report. It'll break it down by arrests, misdemeanor convictions, felony convictions, all of those things. And the most important thing to remember is the folks that we're working with are absolutely high risk, high need probation individuals who, without that program, likely would have been in prison. So.
Thank you.
I'd like it too, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can send it to the whole board.
The drug court's amazing.
The reason for the expansion of the programs, when I was managing the program, studies had indicated that methamphetamine addicts, to have a real chance of succeeding, needed to be clean for at least a year. And so in doing that, most of the individuals, if the program's only 1 year, would not reach that year mark. So with that change, many of the graduates have been clean a year, plus some that had begun in residential treatment had been clean for 2 years. And so it was interesting in running for re-election and collecting signatures, a number of people that still come up and say, I remember your involvement in the program. Spouse has been clean now for 20 years. It's because of that program. It saved my family. And at the time, most of the people that were in the program were methamphetamine addicts. So that was the reason for targeting that change. And there were many changes that took place. I think that the study discusses those things, as I recall, but a lot of it was to see just growth. And obviously the mark of a program is not just success in the program, it's after you've completed the program, and that's what I'm especially proud of. But it's tremendous staff and judges that, spend their time in those programs. Also the graduation rate in that time, I think it increased from just beneath 50% to over 70%. So much fewer people are being terminated from the program and seeing their probation revoked and sentenced to prison in many cases.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to recognize there's the other judge, the other precinct judge, Russ Jones. I have a tough time mentioning Russ Jones, but I'll
I have nothing unless there's questions.
no, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned you. It just Russ Jones doesn't come out that well, but it's fine. Thank you for coming, and thank you again for the presentation, and thank you for answering all those questions.
Next, we have Juvenile Court. Edward Gilligan, Director of Juvenile Court Services, is available. Recommended budget begins on page 26. Decision
Judge,
packages.
Sorry to interrupt you a minute. Did you want to say something Judge, before
I
we?
just had one item that I just wanted to address.
Okay, well then let me, before we get out of that court system, come on. I'm sorry, I did not realize you wanted to say.
Again, I just don't want to be redundant. Thank you to the board and Chairman Reyes and honorable members. Ma'am, good luck. We're going to miss you. The only thing that I have is the one position that I requested to be moved to the general fund. And I'm very gracious for what the BRT has approved. I mean, through the years since I took office, we've always been at risk of being in the negative. And fortunately, this year, that's not the case. We don't have a retention issue, and I got to give kudos to my staff. They are trained, they know, they are cross-trained. Every single one of them knows exactly what the other clerks are doing. So I could move them around. And that's because of the training and everything that we provided. So the reason that I wanted to move that position to general fund is to allow also the court to provide additional training. For example, as you know, Mr. Porches, Mr. Chairman Reyes, and Ms. Pancrase, JP2, predominantly 85% of our customers are Spanish speakers. And we need to be aware that we don't violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, because when we provide those interpreter services to them, when we provide information, we need to make sure that the information that we provide is adequate and to that point. So that's an additional training that we need to provide for our staff as well. So with that, I'm very, very grateful. So that's the only reason I'm doing that. Other than that, I don't have anything else. And I remember a board member told me one day when I first started, it says, to be a good leader, you need to know how to negotiate. I think she was a senator at the time. So here I am. Other than that, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Right, so you're talking about that reclassification where you wanted to move Justice Clerk 2 over to the general fund?
Yes, sir.
So you had it minus here and up, it's $18,576?
That's correct.
Right. We'll put it there at the end. We'll just talk about it.
Yes.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sorry to interrupt that way, but I mean, I didn't see him out there until he, rose. But can we do it again?
Next, we have Juvenile Court. Edward Gilligan, Director of Juvenile Court Services, is available. The recommended budget begins on page 26. Decision packages, page 27.
Were you on crutches last time, you said?
I was.
Okay, good. Just that, maybe. Did you pass them on to the Public Works Director? Is that what?
Thank you, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. In a continuation of the theme of today, I'm just extraordinarily thankful for the collaborative work with the budget review team. I know that team operates much behind the scenes and out of your direct view. But in my experience with them, what I can tell you is they're absolutely diligent protectors of the general fund. And honestly, I really appreciated the tough questions and the thorough review. It's not a layup, and it's just I think it's a compliment to this process that's been mentioned today. I've seen a handful of county budget processes, and this really is a good one. I don't say that because this year we got our recommendations. I say that because I recognize in this process I'm going to get what I need, and not necessarily what I want, but what I need. And that's a really important part of working in a government. So appreciate this team, look forward to working forward with them. And I appreciate the time and the opportunity to address your questions and advocate for things. But this year, this budget recommendation from the BRT is going to enable us to do the work that we need to do, to be effective in our work next year, and to meet the needs of the children and families that we serve.
Just one question, and it has to do with overtime. You asked for some overtime, and it wasn't recommended. It's sort of like overtime is sort of like you're not supposed to know you're going to need overtime, otherwise you actually need a position somewhere, or you need to expend hours for somebody. But it seems to me you asked for some overtime.
We did.
Are you expecting to to have overtime needs?
Well, every year we do have overtime needs in the detention center. It's not unlike the needs in the sheriff's department when you operate a 24/7 facility and know that you've got to provide that coverage regardless of any circumstance in that facility. We have been operating on an overtime budget of approximately $80,000 a year every year, and the reason for the ask this year was looking back at past years and seeing where we would fall on that expenditure. In the COVID year, when our operations really declined, we came in pretty close to budget. In years prior to that, we were exceeding that budget. We do use vacancy savings to fill that gap, and we managed to stay within the overall general fund budget of the court in that operation. But the concern here was there will be a point in the future, and look, our goal is absolutely as efficient an operation as we can manage. The concern there is when we tip, because as wages increase, the number of hours, and ERE cost is a big driver too. As those baseline costs increase, the number of hours of work we get out of an existing overtime budget decreases. So with each advancing year, it gets more and more challenging to manage within the existing budget. So, you know, in seeing that wasn't recommended this year, I thought, well, what we're going to have to do is what we've done every year in the past, which is really roll up our sleeves and be careful in that operation. But I do appreciate the consideration, and you know, and we're dedicated to really be tracking this expense. I understand that this year's discussion with the budget review team is going to be an ongoing discussion in these future years. But this really is a line in that budget to watch.
Mr. Chair?
Supervisor Lyons first, and then Supervisor Blanca.
Ladies before gentlemen. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
It says in here, eliminate 2 detention officer personnel for 125,236. Would that help if those 2 positions were retained, and would that help with the not needing overtime?
The rationale for the downsizing there is that, you know, the center, the number of youth, and this is a really good thing, okay? The number of youth on average that are in our facility is, we're about 10 kids a day, okay? And that's a remarkable success story for this community. You know, the facility can hold a whole lot more kids than that. Our goal is not to fill it. And so what we've seen is for many years, we've been able to operate with a handful of vacancies, and it's hard to fill positions. We've got about 10 vacancies now. So it's a really challenging thing to keep people employed there. And in looking at the overall operations of the court this year, shifting needs, shifting responsibilities, what we tried to do is look at the overall general fund budget, and where it came to personnel, look at the overall need and try to meet other emerging needs and decrease those 2 positions. And this was a discussion with the budget review team. We would not make this recommendation if we believed it wasn't long-term sustainable. So we do recognize that that's going to eliminate some vacancy savings for us that we used to use to supplement the overtime.
I'm trying to.
But we can balance this thing. I know that we can get through this year.
And we appreciate it. We do. It's understandable to me that you would want to trade them off. I mean, you would say, look, I'm going to get rid of 2 positions. Please give me the $40,000 I need for the overtime, because it just makes sense. You actually took 2 hits at the same time. But, I mean, that's what we ask you. Are you okay with it? And, you know, mine was just a question. It was an appreciative question, because, you know, I've seen that you're giving up 2 positions. And I said, well, you're giving up 2 positions, you're asking for overtime, and you got them both, which is not necessarily in your favor. So I wanted to find out where you were coming from. I get the explanation.
I'm not happy with it, though.
Well, the question is whether you're happy with it. Because I think that we're not happy with anything most of the time, but
If there were a great large money tree growing down by the Colorado,
you would want to have.
and we could pick off every possible dollar bill and use that for everything in a county government, I'd say, give it to us. I recognize what you folks have to do every year is weighing one need against another. And so for us, and it's in continuation of a theme established at the Superior Court level, is looking and trying to find the way that we can be the best possible partner with this overall county government. And so I understand that you're making tough choices, and what you have from me is a commitment this year to operate all of our operations without sacrificing a service to a person in this community with the budget that's been recommended.
All right. Well, thank you. Unless, sorry, Mr.
Mr.
Lyons.
Chairman, is that 40,000 based upon previous year expenditures? Is that what your baseline was?
That's where the estimate came from, is looking at, when we were hitting years, 2019 in particular, and we were seeing this escalation. Look, every year we're going to spend that little bit more on overtime because the baseline cost, salary and ERE, have been increasing. So we get fewer hours. Still have the same kind of hour need. A lot of the impact comes on our holidays because we can't just not staff it on a holiday and give everybody a day off. But we've got some flexibility in personnel. There have been times we've brought probation officers into that facility to fill shifts, and we're gonna continue to remain flexible to do our part in helping this county continue to be a model in financial efficacy.
Does that work have to do with coordinating with Amberley's Place, for example, on the weekends and holidays and outside of normal hours?
The overtime, we've got the Hope Center that does most of the coordination, and we're able to operate the Hope Center without overtime because it's not, we're running on a much smaller crew. Depending on whether we've got kids there or not, we can really adjust our staffing. Whereas detention center, we've got to cover the place whether there's one child or 20.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Unless somebody wants to, make an issue of either the positions that were lost or the overtime, thank you very much. We'll get to the end and maybe you'll come up again.
Next, we have Public Works. Josh Scott, Public Works Director, is available. Recommended budget begins on page 28. Decision packages.
Let me just stop right there. The courthouse people, the people that need to get back to their jobs can do so without, us, thinking wrongly about it. I know most judges have a pretty full calendar and they may need to leave, or people who work for the justice system are needed. So, okay, just give me a second because I think it's a little more disturbing when they get up and you're making your presentation because you start to think, is it me? So you just want to get them out first. Okay, go ahead and start it up again. Sorry.
Next, we have Public Works. Joshua Scott, Public Works Director, is available. The recommended budget begins on page 28. Decision packages, page 29.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Josh Scott, Public Works Director.
Last time you argued with me, that's what happened. I'm not even going to ask you. Are you okay with your budget?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, can I ask one
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
Josh, how come you withdrew your prescription safety eyewear reimbursement program?
So we had budget that carried forward from the last fiscal year, so we didn't need additional budget authority there.
Thank you.
Hey, if you're happy, we're happy, and you don't have to suffer any more damage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming
I
over.
have to tell you, I went to the Public Works.
Work zone safety
Yes,
awareness.
Yes, and I learned that if you're in Phoenix and you're driving at night, don't drive in the commuter lane, because that's where those people that are driving under the influence try to stay in and they think they're on the outside lane. That's one of the things I learned at that thing. It was a good program.
Take the curve on 8th Street really fast because the crew's working right there. That's what I learned this morning. And they, wait, yes, go ahead.
Thank you for offering those and inviting us to them. They are very beneficial.
Right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next, we have Development Services. Craig Sellers, Director of Development Services, is available. Recommended budget begins on page 31. Decision packages, page 32.
Craig, I have to disclose, I'm concerned you were talking to Supervisor Lyons before the meeting, and that is always disturbing to me. But continue. Is your budget okay?
It is.
Mr. Chairman, he did mention we can talk because Tony's not here yet.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but anyway, Craig, thank you. Thank you very much. Your budget okay?
It is.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, Craig. That was the best presentation we had so far. Thank you.
Next, we have.
No, you're gonna mess it up.
We hope everybody can match it.
I know you like brief.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Next, we have Facilities Management, Ian McGee, Interim Facilities.
Hey, look, I have a tough time pronouncing that too. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Interim
Other than
Facilities
being
Management
Irish,
Director.
You're not gonna be able to get that right.
Recommended budget begins on page 33. Decision packages, page 34.
Okay. Can I ask my question?
Oh, wait, let me ask you first. Are you okay with your budget?
Chairman, members of the board, yes, I'm okay with this budget.
Now that you're okay with your budget, go ahead, Supervisor Vice President.
Okay, Facilities Assistant Management Software, you withdrew that, and you withdrew new position Facilities Maintenance Worker number 3. You withdrew that, and new position Facilities Project Coordinator withdrawn, and new position Office Specialist 1 withdrawn. And only one thing was not recommended. So can you, well, two, software subscription increases, but can you explain why you withdrew some of those?
Sure. This budget was originally prepared by the previous facilities management director. Since that time, there have been some organizational structural changes and some processes improvements for efficiency and safety and productivity. Asset management software, that's a cloud-based asset and maintenance management software system. It's a major project, would require the migration of nearly 300,000 historical work orders. Not that it's not necessarily warranted, but I don't think it's appropriate for me as interim to make that decision. I think it's better left to the permanent director when that person comes on board. So that may reappear next year, but not right now. Maintenance worker 3, this position was a half of a full-time position that was shared with the sheriff's office. The previous director wished to make this position whole in facilities management to accommodate a request from a maintenance worker who was working at the jail district who wanted to come back to facilities. That situation has been resolved, and we don't need to take that half position back and make it whole. So that's not an issue. Facilities project coordinator, the funding for this position was used to create the new construction project director position. And so with that new position handling the new construction projects, and the jail district taking over a good portion of maintenance projects. We are currently have the project management technician handling construction projects for facilities management, and that's sufficient. So there's no need for that.
Okay.
And I think, did I hit all of your questions?
Yes, you did. All the ones I had.
Ian, I'd rather call you Ian. I mean, it sounds a little easier to pronounce. Thank you. I mean, that's very thorough, very nice, very good. Thank you.
Next, we have County Engineer. Frank Sanchez, the County Engineer, is available. Recommended budget page begins on page 36. Decision packages on page 37.
Dang.
The CIP. Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Frank Sanchez, County Engineer. Budgets for engineering and flood control. We're really happy with them. Just got a small presentation on. Just want to highlight a couple CIP projects that are being funded for next fiscal year. Our HERF CIP budget for fiscal year 23, we got $6.78 million. And for flood control CIP, we're looking at 21.79 million.
Doesn't want to
You
wait.
look happy, so I forgot to ask you if you were happy. You came out too quickly.
Next slide.
There we go.
So the majority of the CIP funding for HERF is going to the North Frontage Road project, estimated about $4 million for that project. We're in the final stages of getting all utilities relocated, so we should have that project out to bid shortly. We're looking middle of June to get that project out to bid. County 12th Street, 11E to 12E. That project started in fiscal year 22. We're nearing the completion of that project, but it is going to extend into fiscal year 23. So we have $450,000 in 23 programmed. Los Amigos and South Sands subdivision pavement replacement. That project is being bid concurrently with the North Frontage Road. So we'll be bidding those two projects together in order to have some possible savings. And then highway safety, ADA improvements, and irrigation culvert replacements. We're looking at $200,000 each on those two CIP projects. Those are continuing projects that we look to fund every year. The irrigation culvert replacements, that's something that through the last couple of years we've been seeing a lot more as our infrastructure starts aging. We've been seeing a lot of culverts start leaking, and most of those we can repair with simple fixes, a concrete collar at the leaking joint. However, some of those culverts are so old that we're going to have to replace. So I just want to touch briefly on federal aid projects. We do have several federal aid projects that we're currently administering. We have the Avenue 28E Bridge and County 9th Street Bridge replacement. That project just recently started construction. And we're looking at about $900,000 for that construction. County 11th and Avenue G curve realignment. The design for that is starting this fiscal year, or fiscal year 23, and construction is slated in fiscal year 24. County 19th Street and Avenue G rumble strips. We're looking for design in 23 and construction in fiscal year 25. The next project is the pavement marking upgrades. That's an HSIP also project that we're looking out and looking to improve the pavement markings on 13 roadways in the county. That equates to roughly about 40 miles of striping. We got funding there for about $1.85 million. And then we also got County 14th Street and Avenue 4E widening and traffic signal. The design for that project is fiscal year 23 with construction slated in fiscal year 24. And then Red Cloud Mine Road realignment project. We anticipate construction for that being completed in August of 22. All right, flood control.
Ferguson Park.
It's a brief CIP program here. We got essentially two projects. Smucker Park Detention. That project was awarded by the board to Meridian Construction or Meridian Engineering Company, and they're taking steps to get their work plan approved by ADWR. They should have a submittal to them here shortly. As soon as that work plan gets approved, we're issuing a notice to proceed. So that's good news.
That's like a dam now. It's not even a retention basin anymore.
It's a dam.
Damn, that.
Hopefully we won't see it next year on this. It'll say completed.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Supervisor Simmons, it is, the contract time is a year, 365
They don't tell you
days.
which year, but it's a year.
And then the other flood control project is, as I previously mentioned, we do have that Los Amigos and Southern Sands subdivision pavement replacement, but before we do that, we're gonna put in some storm drainage to alleviate some of the storm drain issues that they have. And so this is a flood control project that we're gonna put in those improvements and then come back and repave those subdivisions. The improvements, we're looking at roughly about $1 million for the storm drain improvements. And then the last project there is the South Somerton drainage improvements. That is finalizing. It was about a $4 million project. And we're looking at about $385,000 that we're gonna move into fiscal year 23 to complete that project. And last but not least, I also want to highlight a couple of projects that the department's administering that aren't necessarily HERF projects or flood control projects. We do have the Yuma County Broadband project using ARRA funds at a tune of about $20.7 million. We got the fairgrounds relocation of the Midway. Our consultant, Doug Robbins, is currently working on the design. We were trying to shoot to try to get that completed in fiscal, actually a year, this year, but due to the fairgrounds use of their facilities, they won't have enough time for us to get in there and do the relocation. So now we're looking at fiscal year 23 to do those relocations. The other project we also got, the Magrino Industrial Subdivision. The project did get bid out, and there is a low bidder. And so we're looking at bringing the loan agreement and the low bidder, the award of the low bid, to the board on May 16th for approval. GYPA is currently working on finalizing getting signatures for the agreement. So when we bring it to the board on May 16th, if the board approves it, then you just execute it. And then the last project we got there is just a small project, the Columbarium. We have ordered 4 additional units. Each unit has about 120 niches. So with this additional units, we're going to increase 480 niches for the fiduciary. And that's all I have.
Hearing steps in the roof, it may not be us thinking, it may be actually true. I can see it moving though. All right, any questions for engineering? I do have a question. It has to do with a project that I don't know how it's going to come into our CIP or something. It's the Avenue E extension from the current port of entry to Somerton or to outside Somerton. Is that anything in the radar that you guys are dealing with?
Well, Supervisor or Chairman Reyes, members of the board, we did actually submit a raise grant to try to get funding for the construction of that that project. If it gets awarded, then it's going to include the right-of-way acquisitions, which includes the set aside for the lizard, endangered lizard.
Toadhead, flathead, something.
Yeah, flat-tailed horn. It's a flat-tailed horn lizard, and includes the final design and construction.
So what you're saying is until we have something more solid, such as a grant or something, the county, it really doesn't appear in the county 5-year plan or anything.
It doesn't, unless the board wants to move it up. We're talking at a cost of about $18 million. So if...
Fine. I just wanted to know if it was in the radar, because I know the application has been made. I just didn't know whether we're planning to do it.
We are budgeting a little bit of money to be able to get some of the right-of-way acquisitions going.
And let me tell you why I mentioned this. The conversation when we had a conversation about improving Cesar Chavez, which is, the question from the legislature was, is the county involved in it? You know, in other words, is the county contributing? Is the county part of that? And we basically answer no. That is within city limits of San Luis. It's their project. But this one sort of goes through a lot of county land, and it's really actually, I consider it more like a county project. So to me, just having it be part of the plan, even if we don't assign any funds to it, made some sense in terms of being able to say, well, it's in the plan, right? If it gets funded, it gets done. It's sort of like the Red Cloud Mine project, right? It's not really that we put that much in it.
Right.
It's that it was a federal grant that came through with it. So when I didn't see it in there, I thought I asked, okay.
It's in there. It's these are just some highlights of the major.
So the answer is there.
It's there. If you look in the budget book and under the CIP, you'll see that it's in there. And it's always good to have it on our tip through YMPO too, so that we can apply for those federal aid funds.
Okay, so the answer is there somewhere in the book.
Yes.
Right. Any other questions for Frank? Frank, thank you very much. Thank you for keeping us updated, and good job with the position.
Thank you.
Right. All right, so that takes care of the engineering capital improvement projects. Is there anyone here that we missed that wants to address the board or anything that we left? I know some of you are back because there's hopes that we will deal with your budget item that wasn't approved. So I suppose most of you staying around for that. So we're going to go into item number 3, which is discussion and direction regarding the fiscal year 2023 recommended budget. And we'll begin by, I hope, we'll take 5 minutes to reset and put all those requests in an orderly way so we can deal with them. Thank you. It's 5-minute break. Okay. Yeah, I know. And you think it's a bitch getting old. I lost control totally.
Have a good trip.
All right, for all of you.
Really?
Yeah, they come straight and quick.
All right, guys, are we back in the air? Somebody needs to talk to ground control.
Ground control.
Yeah. Major Tom, whatever.
Not bad.
That would be Kevin, but
He
he
gave me
left
the
a minute
intro.
ago. So can somebody just knock on that and tell me if we technologically can get back into a meeting? Yeah, there you go. She's doing it. Are we? Okay, good. Then let's go back and sort of I'm gonna give him time to settle a little bit. And sort of go back to basically, I want to first of all thank everybody that showed up and have you got your moment to say what you needed and what you wanted. We go through a long and lengthy process, and sometimes it's a little anticlimactic that we get to a day and a half, maybe at the most, and we talk about everything that is important to you for a whole year. And I know that sometimes it's tough to swallow, but again, this has been an ongoing process for months. The budget review team has met, they have reviewed the numbers, there are some targets that you have to meet. I think the system, I think everybody's, I would say 95 or 99% of the people that come up always gets to say, look, we work with the budget review team, we're okay, right? I know that in this world we would like to all get all we want, but part of the job that we have here is to balance that out. It's to make sure that we don't think in terms of just today, that we think in terms of what's going to happen over the next few years. I think I made that message clear when we talk about taxes and all those things, but we also have to remember that there are two types of expenses that we have to watch. One is a recurring one that actually makes the base budget. That's what, if you make a decision to hire someone, unless you say this is a grant-driven process and it's going to go away in 2 or 3 years because we got a grant for this, that means that every year we have to put that in the budget. So that's what I call recurring expenses, which is something that once you adopt, normally it's not going to go away. The other one are one-time expenses. One-time expenses are capital outlays. I mean, you pay one road or you do one thing, and that's going to be that year. You don't expect to have it next year. You may have it 5 years on the road. Equipment is one of those one-time expenses sometimes, and those are simply different because they're like I said a minute ago, they're one time. But I would say that all we need to understand about this is that we're talking about the general fund balance. We're talking about the general fund mostly. We're not talking about other funds, and we're talking about whatever we make a decision on, it's got to come out of that general fund balance. Whether it comes out of the recession contingency, which I don't think, the cash balance, about reserves or policies, emergency contingency, it's got to come from somewhere. To go into somebody's budget, it's got to come from somewhere. It's got to come from revenue somewhere. And the revenues have been delineated for us here. So we know where that it's supposed to come from. So now we're going to sort of narrow down those things that we're going to argue about and narrow down where we're going to get the money from if we're going to make the change. Now, I'd like to remind everybody, this is not in any way, this not discount all the effort and time you guys have put into it, both the department heads and the budget review team. This is just the process that we go to. Sometimes we end up with very little to discuss about, and sometimes we end up with a lot more to discuss. Either way, it's just a discussion. We will, as a board, make a decision, and that decision will impact the budget. And I've always said so anticlimactic that the budget is 400 and some million dollars altogether, and we always end up talking about the last 500,000 or the last $1 million. But that's what it boils down to. That's what our job is, to sort of set down some priorities. And we're going to try to do it the best we can. I don't want people to get upset. I mean, some people are going to get what they want. Some people are not. And I'm going to ask you to come up and sort of justify why you think you need whatever it is that you're sitting here waiting for. I'll begin by actually letting Administrator Thorpe sort of give us a brief summary of where we're at and what we're looking at. Can you?
Yes, thank you. Chairman and members of the board, we have gone through this interactive spreadsheet, which is very helpful to articulate and identify and really visualize the decisions that the board is making or the options that you have and what that does to the bottom line for the fiscal year budget. So we're going to be, once you work through and hear the unheard not recommended budget requests as to your requests, then we will identify all those that have a dollar impact, and then we'll go through our recommended budget and what it includes and the bottom line fund balance, and then we'll walk through and add each of the items that you would like to include to add expenditures to the budget and show what that does to the bottom line so that you can decide yes or no, do we want to include this in the tentative budget or not. So with that, let me just recap the items for follow-up that came from yesterday and today. Number one, Supervisor Pancrazzi wanted to look at the potential for the $11,700 for the U of A cooperative extension. Number two, Supervisor Porches wanted to look at funding the broadband manager position from ARPA for the first few years. Item three, you wanted the divisions within county administration to be split out. And so those are in your May 2nd packet. Those are split out for you, just so you have that information. Item five, in the health department, Supervisor Simmons asked about looking at adding the animal control officer due to distance to East County and responses. Item six, on improvement districts, you wanted to have the spreadsheet that showed all the types of each district by type, and which ones are inside and which ones are outside the city limit and why are they increasing. Number seven, Chairman Reyes wanted to identify what the cost of a 1% increase in salaries would look like. Number eight, you wanted the baseline for each department budget, which we provided you in the handouts today from yesterday and today. And from today, we had item nine, legal secretary for the county attorney. Supervisor Pancrazzi said she would like to look at that. Although the county attorney said he's fine with the BRT recommendation. And then item 10, Judge Guerrero wanted to move a Justice Court Clerk 2 to the general fund, which was not recommended by the BRT, so that he could offer more training. So that those are the items for follow-up that I have heard. I don't know if there's any others that we did not capture. If not, the only one that we have not actually heard already, as far as a justification or explanation, is from ITS on the items that Supervisor Pancrazzi asked for that were not recommended. So if we want to have Cliff Summers come up and speak to those and answer any
We're
questions.
taking the last one first.
Well, the first one.
Okay, can we, we used to be able to, we used to be able to put something in the board and the cost of some of these items. I guess we're not designed, we just didn't design it this way this year, right?
They are in your packet under ITS,
Oh, no, I know.
but not, do we have anything we can show
But we didn't
on the
separate them,
screen?
right? We don't have a list of items in their cost
Recommended and
that we
not
can look at,
recommended?
right? No, it's fine. Yeah, I know they're there. I know.
Sorry, we don't have it available to put on the screen.
Well, that's what the question was.
I have it right here.
No, I know we all have it. We all have it in our packet. It's just that normally we could have seen it, well, not normally. In the past, we would have seen, what the cost would be and, what the impact it would have on the budget, and we could place it in there somewhere. I guess we're not at that level today, so we're just gonna hear justification for those items that weren't recommended in IT, okay?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, Vice Chair Lyons, and Board of Supervisors. My name is Cliff Summers. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Yuma County ITS. Items that were brought up by Supervisor Pancrazzi, starting off with number 11, I believe you have the sheet as far as the decision 2022, 2023 decision packets. So the password management system, what that would actually end up being is...
No, go ahead.
It's just right behind you.
I was going to,
What that actually would end up being is that allows us to be able to provide...
So I guess I would like clarification on whether you're asking that those be recommended or you're just explaining what they are. Which ones are you actually requesting to be added versus this Supervisor Pancrazzi?
I want an explanation first.
that's what you're doing, so continue doing it.
Explanation first.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
As Supervisor Pancrazzi had asked, as far as the items that were not recommended. So we have the password management system. What that ends up doing is it provides a better way for us to manage passwords where people are not saving passwords on sticky notes, under keyboards, different means, sometimes having Excel spreadsheets that are not secure on a machine or something, or even having them on Notepad on a particular cellular phone or something like that. This allows for us to push this out as a test group to start off with people to see how that actually works for us, and then eventually migrate that throughout the entire county if it shows that it's something that's very successful. On top of that, within the ITS department, within human resources, I would even go as far as health and probably county administration. Some of the passwords that are held have access to certain things that if they were to be compromised could create a major problem for the county overall. So that was the reasoning why we asked for that. Moving to the next item.
Wait, hold on a minute.
Sorry.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about that, because it's pretty described. It's described on the sheet. And it also says that the quote is for 200 users. How many users do we have?
Throughout the county, we have a total of, I think, 800 actual users in the county.
So what are we targeting, the ones that, how do we know which ones have a really good password and which ones don't and which ones need help? I mean, I need help for sure, but yeah, that's not.
Chairman Reyes, we've interacted with probably everyone within the county. And as you said, people in certain positions may need more assistance as far as securing passwords. And we did put this in for 200 because we try to do it in blocks. That way it would cover not only for all the individuals that would be, say, administrators or whatnot, but also some of the people that are part of different teams that have information that needs to be protected. There's a lot of misuse as far as how passwords are actually handled.
I get
Kind of
that.
like all of our taxes and all of our voters.
Not really.
You know, the ability to be able to get a hold of any of that, like it was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, again, my problem is this isn't really, this is like a start, right?
Yes.
I mean, you have 200, and then you're gonna have to know the 200, then 200, 200, and it is almost like it must be like an app or a training situation. Is it?
There will be training provided to this, but it is an app that you would have that allow you to be able
So
to
the
actually say the
licensing is
passwords.
for an app.
Yes.
That helps people understand better the security issues.
Not really understand better security, but to secure the passwords better. A lot of us use like KeySafe or KeyPass, which is an application that we use for a lot of our passwords that would let people into areas that they shouldn't get into.
I would be looking at this a lot better if it was a countywide program, because you guys have taught me that the weakest link in any security detail is one individual. That one person like me, or Supervisor Porteous, for example, that doesn't like to, I'm not going to use you. I don't like to change the 45, the password every 45 days, which is the basic, every 30 days now, or two-face verification or whatever it's called, two-factor verification.
Yeah.
I'm really resistant, right? But if we don't do it for everybody, if everybody doesn't do it, then that person that didn't do it, it's going to be our problem. That's how I feel. I feel that if you're going to get into like you've done so far, I mean, we have now changed the method that we have, the security method that we have to access our accounts, in the county. But if you're doing it for 200 people, and you're going to do it for 200 people next year, and then 200 people the year after, and 200 people the year after, what you're really looking at for $60,000 to actually train people to be better stewards of security.
But what we're actually doing is targeting those individuals that would be targeted. So when we really start.
Yeah.
So when we really start
nobody's going to go after
You're
mine
targeting.
because there's nothing
Well,
on it.
it's difficult for me. I know. It's difficult for me to see how it works with just a portion of the employees.
In most industries, Fortune 500s, any of these companies, you're going to have different levels of security, different features, different functions for different groups within those organizations. So when we look at it, if we were to put it in not really technical terms, but how it's explained lots of times, you have it to where people start fishing for whales for the most part.
Right.
So they're trying to gain access to somebody that has the most access or that they can actually leverage against to get the most from.
All right, okay,
Like
it's
Felicia.
$15,000. How does the board feel about it? Is it important enough, or is it just something we need to move on?
So it's at 15 this
Now.
year, and then next year's gonna be another 15, so it'll be 30.
That's what we're looking at, yes. That's once,
Is it a subscription?
yes, it is.
And
Yeah. Most all
A user
subscriptions are
agreement, like a
annual.
Microsoft user agreement.
Yeah, if you're using 365 or something like that, yes.
So, just think about it. This is mostly a recurring situation, okay? You
We
just want to
already
make sure.
have do we already have a different program in place?
Not to the magnitude of what we're looking at here. This has been looked at extensively by our security team along with, others just to see if it's something that's user friendly. So that's why we push this one forward to see if we can use this to start off with. Because we have to start off somewhere.
Yeah. Jesus, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, yes, as Cliff touched on, this is a pilot program. We did identify 200 licenses. Those 200 licenses will be targeting our leadership within the organization to include board of supervisors, county administration, our sensitive areas, which is health district, county attorney, recorders, and election services. Those tend to be the spotlight departments within the public's view, and we want to have them be the first ones to test it for us. Another item is we do conduct internal audits of our data that is stored on our P&E drives, and we will also be targeting those individuals that have shown not to have the best, what I would consider IT hygiene, and are using an Excel spreadsheet to store passwords. Just in case somebody were to compromise our environment, they don't have a treasure trove of passwords that they could pick at. So we have identified individuals that would require or would benefit from the use of that tool. With this being the first year to test and implement it, we are hoping that it grows and we expand it to the rest of our county employee workforce. And not necessarily just on the main county side, but also our other agencies, such as Sheriff's Office and Library District, so that we start building that foundation for proper IT hygiene within our organization.
But I'd like to put a note in there. That's if those other entities would want to participate in that.
All right, so look, I know this is going to take a long time if you go one by one, but, if we go through them and then go back and vote on them, we'd have to rehash some of the questions. So patience. I mean, this is going to be like a 4 or 5 item thing that we got to talk about. Now, you've made your case for the, it's called users, I think, license.
Password management
Password
system.
management license agreement. Now, is the rest of the board convinced this is something we need to implement right away?
We don't want to end up like the hospital.
Well, we already have. I mean,
I know,
just
but
not
now we
go
know.
there.
Now we know.
What we need to do is it important enough for us to, because this is, technically to me, this will be a recurring stuff. I mean, it's a pilot program, yes, but it's a pilot program that, as far as I'm concerned, it's just going to, it's at some particular point, we need to implement security, more security, and it's just like the sign of the times nowadays. So is it important enough? Is it?
Mr. Chairman, Cliff, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you?
When we initially done this, I kind of had a lot of back and forth because we had to mark things as 1 through whatever our last one was. And this was definitely in my top 5 as far as what was needed. But because there was other items, so 1 through 5, I'd say for this one, password management, I'd probably put it at maybe a 4. Because we need to have the ability to ensure that somebody's not mishandling passwords.
Mr. Chairman, I would adopt it into the budget.
Well, I know Lynn will, and I know you will. What about you guys?
There's like 4 other user agreements or license agreements that are also in this packet. Which is a priority? I mean, as far as all these other ones.
Yeah, again, guys, if we go, if the way you want to do this is to listen to all 4 of them and then rate them and then, see which one is more important, then I'll allow you to finish up your presentation, which is, we'll go back to each one of them and vote on them.
So just for clarification, if you look at the decision packages, they are listed in order of priority. So 11 is password management system, 15 is network performance monitoring tool, 19 is dark web monitoring, 20 is network security monitoring, 21 is Microsoft Project 365 subscription. So and 22 is communication system. So all the others,
Rated by
17
whom?
items were recommended and 6 were not recommended for IT.
Rated by whom?
By the BRT.
Well, you see
No,
that-
I'm sorry, it was rated by the department.
Oh, okay.
We asked everybody to prioritize their items 1 through whatever, so
All
they
right.
prioritized the items.
It's fine.
How many points did it get?
We only did ratings points for positions, not for projects.
Okay.
Okay.
And as County Administrator Thorpe had said, we were asked to rate our items, and we rated our items. So if you notice the first, say, 10, those items right there are completely critical to our environment. Those are things, but honestly, everything that we provide ends up being critical to our environment because we provide that service out to everybody else.
And we like to give you everything that you want. But obviously, there's a process, and this is what the process is. I mean, on the BRT recommended the 12 items, 10 items that were more important, and then left the other ones. I mean, I suppose there was like, if one is 15, the other is 19, the one 16, 17, and 18 were probably approved. Otherwise, they would be here, because everything that's here is what wasn't approved.
Can we keep going and go down the rest
Okay,
of them?
all right. Let's do that, because we're gonna take a long time to just make a decision on one, the way it looks.
Very brief on the next couple. When we get down to the network performance monitoring tool, that's to replace a piece of software that we already have. We were utilizing software called SolarWinds. SolarWinds suffered a breach probably 6 months to a year ago. Since then, luckily, we were not at the patch set that suffered the breach, so we were taken care of. But we want to move to something that's more robust than what we currently have, so that we can eliminate any kind of downtime and also have the ability to predict issues that would be coming up to eliminate any kind of downtime. Moving to the next one, as far as the dark web monitoring, I think that's extremely necessary. And to answer Supervisor Simmons' question, if I had to put one above another, I would throw the dark web monitoring in there, because that allows us to, and I'm going to put Jesus up here, he knows more about that piece than I do. But what I do know about it, it allows us to be able to get a look into potential issues or potential hacks or bad actors that may want to create some kind of malicious intent upon the county. So that's what we're looking for with that one. We would not be the ones actually doing it. It is a subscription based where there's a vendor that would actually put their crawlers through to take a look on certain keywords, feelers, however you want to call it, to be able to see if anything is actually taking place. If it is, it gives us the opportunity to react on those potential issues. You want to jump in on that, Jesus?
Yes, so dark web monitoring, it allows us to set rules that will identify keywords that are out in breaches that are both public and private. So it scrapes the dark web for any information that may be related to the county. And this would benefit the organization as a whole. It's not just for ITS and the departments that are managed directly by us. We can set rules to look for yumacountyez.gov, yumalibrary.org, specific names, in order for us to get actionable intelligence, and also compare it to that information that we get from our federal law enforcement and federal intelligence agencies, so that we can be proactive in our responses. Because sometimes we've seen it a few times already where some of the vendors that the county does business with is delayed in notifying us that they've suffered a breach or an incident. And particularly, we did have a vendor who failed to notify us, and there was an extremely long window of about 2 to 3 weeks before they even reached out to us and told us we are experiencing an incident. So it would kind of offset us relying on the vendor to notify us if something did indeed get out on the web. Chairman Reyes.
No, I was going to say, I have that in my credit. I mean, I belong to X something or whatever. But, yeah, I get notices, your name is out in the web. The problem is, what do you do with the information you get? And what, if it is possible, once your name is on the web, or your phone number, or your email, what exactly can you do about it? I mean, because one thing is getting a notice or finding out you're there, but what can you actually do with that info once you get it?
Chairman Reyes and members of the board, if we were to find information out on the dark web, let's say it's on a marketplace, or they have a dump of passwords for our county users, there are resources that we can then contact on the federal side that will assist in taking it down so that it is not out on the marketplace. So it's not specifically just for notification. It does allow us to take action on any information that is out there related to the county and our different government bodies.
You can get it off of there, right?
It's not guaranteed, but it does allow us to pinpoint it and provide that information to either Homeland Security, the FBI, whatever intelligence agency is there to hopefully bring it down from the web so that its sale is basically squashed at that point.
This is not a firewall. This is basically technically once the horse is out of the barn, we need to find a way to get it back in. Correct. In terms of, in cowboy terms, right? So what you want to, most of these are license agreements. So that means that somebody is actually doing that for you because you would be scanning the web. I mean, you have to scan it every morning, every hour to be able to. So it's more like you're going to pay for a license for somebody, or you're going to pay someone to do this scanning all the time and let you know in real time, basically, as soon as they find out, let you know so that you can take steps to correct it.
That is correct. It is in real time, and the purchase is for 2 licenses, so it would be for the 2 for the security division, and any information that is gathered would be shared amongst all the county government bodies as well. So there is no action that is directly taken by county IT staff, as it's all automated on the back end.
Is it just a one-time license agreement? I don't see it.
It's a yearly agreement.
So it's $30 every time.
It's $30,000 in fiscal 24. It doesn't show here. That's why I asked, because it shows just one time, and it doesn't show it in any other recurring year. If it's a recurring.
No, that would have been a recurring item, and I don't have what you have in front of you right now. Okay.
So you pay the license every year.
Correct. And unfortunately, that's how IT is now. Chairman Reyes, is that most things are based upon subscription base, and it ends up being more cost effective at the current time to do that. But I've been in this field long enough to know that we used to have everything on-prem because it's more cost effective. Then it moved to off-site, and it'll probably switch back at some point.
Right. So what else you got?
The other item we have the network security monitoring. And what that one is, it was renamed by Office of Management and Budget. But actually what that is primarily an Albert sensor. So that falls back into the cybersecurity realm as well, which works with what MSIs along with Homeland Security as far as being able to gather information to make sure that if anything comes up tied back to the county or anything that is an active attack, the information is ingested to Yuma County and it can be shared out by the security division to those who need to know.
What's the difference between that and dark web monitor?
This one is a partnership with a lot of the, I hate to call them alphabet groups, but like Homeland Security, FBI, different agencies like that. And it's just a pool or a shared pool of information, but it's not really tied back to the dark web. The dark web is a completely different beast.
And again, it is a recurring thing. I see most of them are like one-time licenses, and then this one says you need a server, 8,000 people, $900 to set it up, and then after that is $14,000. Right?
And that's for the services provided as far as working with those other entities.
I just want to make sure that we understand that this is not like buying a server. You buy a server, that's it. It's a license agreement. Basically, it's a user license.
And documents were prepared that I'm not sure if you have. It actually showed what it was. It showed that it was for the device along with the subscription, if you want to call it that, to do this.
No, it is broken down a little bit. It's the server and the yearly cost. And it's just not, it's not followed up. If we're going to make a commitment to this stuff, you might as well realize this is not, I wouldn't even call it a pilot project. I would call it an initial investment and with continuing service. It's like Microsoft or something. You buy a license 1 year and then you're doomed. I mean, because if you don't buy it the next year, they'll cut off their services. You're going to get into this. You're going to buy a license, a user license, and that you respect. And this is the way that life is going to be. It's the way life is right now.
Right.
Okay, what else?
The Microsoft Project 365. That's something we looked at because ITS and basically the county is project centric at this point. So there's a lot of projects that take place that projects are being tracked by way of old means, either by way of Excel or Word, or the oldest means is through pen and paper creating Gantt charts. And what we're
Yeah, that one I agree with. Right.
And what we started looking at is trying to have something that we could actually track our projects better and be able to share those out, be able to share the information as well when it comes down to having to share with either the county administrator or the board or whoever or stakeholders.
Yeah, you know what? I agree because I'm doing that. But, you know, that is actually opening it up. I mean, now you can do something in your phone and then connect it to your, you know, to your computer, which is what that web, that interconnectivity that we're looking for is for something to immediately record. I mean, you do something in your phone, and if you have it in your phone, your computer would have it, and you look into it. It's a network thing.
Exactly.
And that's exactly the way life is going to be, and it's exactly why I believe security is just going to ramp up. You got to ramp up security when you have everybody having access to everything.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're speaking about Microsoft Outlook 365. This is a Project 365, which is how they manage like a capital project or an IT project.
But as you said, just with Project 365, you can utilize it off your phone. You have the ability to share that out with other individuals that.
And networking.
What was that?
The networking.
Exactly. So, you know, it's with you, it's available anytime, anywhere. And then that cost that's associated with it is the cost for the actual subscription along with the training. And the training was looked at as far as being able to do it either remotely or be able to do it on site.
So Mr. Chair, so it's only for projects within the county?
It would be projects, what I'm asking for here is projects based within ITS. I'm not asking about any other departments at this particular time or offices tied back to project. Although I did have a discussion with someone yesterday and they had, you know, some thought process, a project would be good for them as well.
And there I was thinking this was going to be an easy one-time, you know, capital outlay, you know, we're done with it this year. This is not. This is actually more like, okay, now you got to get ready for this and you got to continue servicing this thing. It's not just dark web monitoring, it's dark web monitoring from here on. As long as you pay the licenses, it will happen. It's not just networking, you know, license agreements, it's networking license agreements from now till whatever time we decide that's enough.
But at the same time, if we don't have that security, we're open to.
We're open to ransomware, we're open to a lot of stuff. I mean, and everybody is. I mean, I'm telling you, I've dealt with this situation. We have dealt with this situation before. It's not really pretty. You know, you talk about cloud now, you know, as we put more stuff in the cloud. Well, that really takes it out and puts it out in the cloud to some server somebody's providing you with. Normally, we don't have a server that large to keep our information separate from everybody else's, so it's going to be shared. I can only tell you that to me this is inevitable. We're going to get there. How fast we get there, that's what we're talking about right now. Do we get there now, or do we get there next year? Do we get there incrementally? Do we choose some and the other ones? That's really a decision the board needs to make right now, so we can move on to the next item, because, you know, it's. But you need to realize this is not a one-time deal. I don't know what the total amount of all these services are.
94,000.
100,000. It's either you make a decision to go $94,000 into it, and then from then on maybe 60, because it's just user agreements, licensing in the future if they don't increase it. So we're looking at $100,000 today added to the budget, and about 50, 60 recurring or 70 recurring every year. I mean, and that's life, and that's I think why we brought it back. Now, I need the board to make sort of not a decision necessarily, but just if we're going to move or not. What do you?
Chairman Reyes, there's one more item. It was the communications system, which it was renamed as well. It's actually a Slack channel that we're looking for. Slack channel. A lot of universities, a lot of Fortune 500s, a lot of people that need to be in the know on a regular basis utilize these. We belong to different groups, and we communicate by way of a Slack channel. It allows you to create different channels that puts it out to where you can create teams, projects, different things like that, and be able to collaborate to be able to get things done remotely. You know, if somebody, let's just say remote would be county administration building versus ITS, you can collaborate back and forth. It's not tied to any particular network. It's a cloud base. So regardless if you're on your cell phone or if you're at home or if you're on vacation, if something's needed, you can still chime in. And we put that one in there as also under consideration.
Right, now, it goes back to the same thing. Normally, this is a package of licensing and agreements to improve both the flexibility of the systems and the security of the systems. Whether it's like monitoring the dark web or whether it's putting firewalls around what you do. Whether it's passwords or whether it's, networks that are specifically designed for specific, uses. It's all together in that package as I see it. I mean, my heart goes out to everyone that didn't get theirs approved by the BRT, but there was a process where the BRT made these decisions. You're getting a chance to argue for your items, and that's it. I mean, we're not gonna have to make a decision before we move on, guys, because
All I'm concerned about are the ones that have to do with security. The other ones,
Right, so.
they can be the chat ones and the project one and all those other kind of things. I'm not concerned about. All I want are the ones that
Password security.
prevent us from,
Dark web monitoring.
yes,
Password security, dark web monitoring.
yes.
What else is security?
Network security monitoring shared. That's it.
Dark web monitoring, network security. What is not security?
What is,
Microsoft projects, the Slack channel.
The Slack channel is not security.
it's not security, but it can be used for a security communication device, so yes.
So that one says one says network security monitoring, and the other one says Microsoft 365 subscription, which we already have for something else.
And where you might be looking at the two that look similar would be number 15 and number 20. But number 15 would end up being, that's part of our infrastructure group. Number 20 is actually part of the security team. And that right there is that whole Albert where you're talking about the server and everything that would need to be purchased.
Okay, go ahead, Supervisor.
Cliff, how many personnel in your department
29. We have 29 positions.
do you have?
Right now, our vacancies, we have, I think we have 6 vacancies right now.
How long have you had it?
Our vacancies have been lengthy. I think our longest, as far as positions that were open, we have one that's been open for about a year and some change, probably about a year and 3 months. And that's because we're not.
Of them are brand new.
And you gotta let them finish,
I'm sorry.
because otherwise.
So 6 total, one that has been over 1 year.
Yes, and that's due to the qualifications needed for the position. That position is tied into our storage area. And it takes a certain skill set in order for somebody to actually be successful in that role.
So if, let's say we went with half of what you were requesting, are you gonna need another employee to do this, or with the ones that you have, can you do it?
Current year, we can do it, current year. But there's always discussion as far as looking at increasing staff as we move forward. I mean, right now, we operate very lean. And with us operating very lean, that can only go so long before we need to start building out staff. And I kind of don't want to get into this because it may draw out, but we really don't have room to put additional staff right now either, because we're busting at the seams in our building.
Okay, so the question is, if we get this approved, would somebody be able to handle it? Most of these are licensing agreements, and your answer is maybe this year we can with the
Yes.
staff we have, but it may require additional staff, which you have 6 positions open, 7 or something.
Chairman Reyes, the majority of these items that we're putting here are items that just add on to the services, excuse me?
I'm sorry, I interrupted, but it was adding on to existing services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To be able to provide the services that we're already providing. That's what we're trying to do with this.
See if I can bring this to the center so we can move on, okay? Supervisor Pancrase wanted to make sure that whatever security measures needed to be taken to protect the systems, the county systems, would be done. So she was really talking about mostly security items. There was a mix of security items and network items in there. Which ones are security related to? So just to sort of clarify.
Okay. Specifically, security would end up being 11. 19, 20, and those would be the specific security.
And the grand total is recurring.
22.9, 50, 15? I mean, those were the big ones. What is it?
59,448.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be 15,448. Wait a minute. Yeah, 15,448 then you go to 19, which is 30,000, and then you go to, is it 20? You said 20? Or, yeah, you said 20, right?
Reoccurring would be
22.
14 for 20.
So 60,000 recurring?
About 60,000 reoccurring, right?
It'll be reoccurring. Security is not gonna go away next year. I mean, you might as well assume that you're gonna secure it this year, you're gonna secure it every year from this point on. So we're looking at about $60,000 extra. Now, where would that money come from? Would it come from our reserves? Would it come from where?
It would come from the 98,000 that we're gonna do for ARPA.
What, for
This
what?
year it would be.
Oh, the ARPA is not, let me just say that, ARPA is not going to be a recurring, sustaining revenue source. It's a one-time or two-time or three-year deal. I wouldn't expect ARPA to be around. I mean, as a matter of fact, it isn't. This is just money we haven't spent. Once we spend it, we need to make sure. So if we're looking at this year, yeah, we could say that. We could use it, we could take it out of the, I guess there's Board of Supervisors contingency, we take it out of the contingency and make it less. I guess policy, we could change that policy.
We take it out of, Mr. Chair? Can
Well,
we
we'd
ask
like,
Gil?
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to listen to all of the things that you want to add, and then we can put
And
them
then we
all
can play with
together
numbers.
instead of identifying right now where it's going to come from.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
So
suggest.
Okay,
decide
right
what it
there.
is you're interested in and
Those three
narrow
items.
that
Those
down.
three.
Okay, those three items, keep them up,
Just
okay?
the total from IT, that, okay, and then.
Okay, then we'll move on.
And then we can move on to other
Right.
items.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cliff.
Appreciate your consideration.
We'll send you an email or text.
Yeah, we'll, if it's in a secure line.
Don't open links.
I would,
Don't do off Slack, okay?
we won't slack. Okay, what's next?
Those are the, oh, excuse me. The cost of a, well, let's see. The only the other item that we haven't identified the cost for at this point was the cost of a 1% increase in salaries. And so we'll let you know that, and then we can actually put that up here along with the other identified issues that the board
What would it be?
requests. That's what we're going to show you right now.
Okay, that's mine, so I'll get onto it right away. No, I will. I mean, it's just a matter of, look, we have done, the way that it was recommended to be a 3%, flat 3%. And then that other 1% would be up to the managers or the administrators of the different departments on a performance basis, which means they'll get to choose who gets that 1 or 2 or whatever percent. Now, that is, in most years, that would have been okay for me. I mean, that would be fine. This year, I think that we're not going to be competitive. We talked about all these market studies that we've ordered. All of them are going to tell us we're behind already. And by us increasing the salary of some people 3%, some people 4%, some people 5%, would require for us to actually have I guess, a leap of faith that, that decision is going to be made by those supervisors or those administrators in a way that will make us keep up with this market studies. I think we're getting further and further behind. When I see 6, 7, 8% inflation, when I see other cities and counties offering 4, 5, 6, 7%, 10%, I think we're just going to get further and further. Yeah, but we're going to get further and further behind. I think if there's a time that people are going to need the help, and I think it's not the real time to be choosing which ones get more and which ones get less. I think this is the year. I'm going to recommend that we go ahead and increase it to 5%, and I think that 5% is going to be, it's not going to be enough to keep up. But I mean, the more time it takes for us to react to that, the more we're going to get behind. So I'm gonna recommend myself. If the rest of the board agrees, well, it'd be their decision. But I'm going to recommend we go ahead and just do a 5% flat and hope people, can deal with that and get to a point where we're not going to be so far behind. We're just getting behind and behind. 3%, 4% right now, it's not making much sense to me. That would be my take.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so the OMB did the calculations. Sorry, thank you. Did the calculations for the 1%. It's around $486,000 for the general fund. If we were to add a 2% to that, keyboard is not working. Am I too far away or something?
Well, it's like, you need a drum roll. So, you know, kind of sort of keep us all, you know, like, okay, it's coming, it's coming.
There you go. Thank you.
That's just IT needing more help.
Yeah, I think I'm too far away from the desk.
Ian,
So I'll do this standing up.
gotta move. But that's not any closer. You gotta get over here with Felicia and the group.
Or sit back there behind the whole thing. Yeah, there we go.
So that will be the 2% adding to the 3 already recommended. So my understanding is that then this 1%
Gets removed.
step performance will go away.
So it's 400 what? It's basically what? An additional
486.
480?
Yes.
That goes to employees, right?
Plus the new positions.
Yeah, well, the new positions are the new positions. There's 20 of them. I don't
So,
remember
Mr. Chairman,
last
that
time
would be
we
the
had
new
20.
total for the 5% on those two.
Okay, so you remove the 400 and something and you put it in.
Yeah,
2%.
before we used to have the 1% for the half a step anniversary. I believe the comment was 5% flat since the beginning of the fiscal year.
Please.
So we're doing the additional 2% to the scale at the beginning. So we have the recommended 3, the Board of Supervisors additional recommended 2%
It's not, it's an additional 1%.
for that total. And we're just removing the anniversary performance 1%.
Yes.
Right. Okay, is there members of the board that don't agree with that? Okay, well, move on to the next item. I mean, we'll take a vote.
Just a comment.
All right.
You know,
Martine had some comments.
I'm okay, you know, staff recommended 4, but, 5, especially
With
how
inflation.
things are doing, with inflation. But one of the things that earlier, and Cliff mentioned it, and I mentioned it on our budget meeting, we need to start looking at positions, and we need to be leaner if we want to be competitive with other private companies or other agencies. If we continue at this level, I mean, since I've been here, every year there's been raises. Was it 2% or 3%, whatever, but there's been some money. So that's occurring every year. We need to start looking at positions that we haven't filled, and we haven't filled for the last 5 years. We actually don't need them. I mean,
You know, people are using that to fill in blanks. I mean, I heard that from juvenile court, and we hear that from, people are using those positions to actually subsidize whatever else they have in their department.
But
And
I
it's
think we need
not
to be
true.
competitive, and if we're gonna pay employees or staff so they won't leave, I mean, we heard the judge say, 8 people, 8 employees that left. So how can we be more competitive so that doesn't keep occurring?
Well, in my experience, Mr. Porcias, Supervisor Porcias, people look at what they get paid, no matter what you say. You can tell them you have 12 different things, different ways of looking at working for the county, and I mentioned them. You have retirement, you have all kinds of stuff that you don't have in the private sector. And I used to have a supervisor, Mr. McLeod, who used to argue all the time that people were really lucky to work for the county. I don't know if they feel lucky to work for the county, but I know they like to get paid comparatively to other areas. And what happens is every time we order a market study, we're always behind. 80% behind, 90% behind, 95%. And almost every position compared to somebody else, especially if the market study is compared to people who hold the same position in other places. I mean, Maricopa, we don't compare that much. I mean, you don't compare with California. We do try to do the same size counties. But again, I've been here for 20 some years, and I have yet to remember one market study where we weren't behind in some of these positions. And it's always because while the private sector reacts really quickly, government doesn't. We go 1%, 2%, 1%, 2%, 3%, and then we divide it in. There was a year you suggested that we look at people who make less and give them more. Well, it's fine. I think it's great. I think it's a sort of a readjustment. But the fact is, 1 or 2% really doesn't seem much to almost anyone. And the problem that we have in the county is that people, if their health insurance goes up by 2%, 3%, they think, we're getting a 3% increase in salary, but we're losing 3% on the health insurance, and they think it's comparable. And they actually think that's the truth. It isn't. But the fact is that we live in a world that perception matters. And to me, every time I talk about salaries, and I think people would consider all the other things that we give them as benefits, I lose the argument. People are always saying, well, but I get paid $18 and a half an hour, and somebody else doing my job, somebody else is paid 19.5 or something. It's bad, but it's the way it is. I understand that we need to be lean and meaner. That's the purpose. As a matter of fact, that's what the surprising thing this year was, that instead of contracting as government, we're spending as government. We're adding more and more positions as we look into it. And it's just a matter of growth. But if you look at the census data, you would think we don't need them, right? We are the same size, that we used to be 10 years ago. If you believe that, I've got beachfront property to sell you over in San Luis. The fact of the matter is the county is growing. The employees are looking for, some of the employees are looking for staying at home one day. And I was talking about that with human resources. People during the pandemic got used to being at home. Whomever can work from home wants to work from home. It is an adjustment that we need to make. And I'm getting the cutoff from Susan, which I just let her do because she's retiring in a month. But, it's okay. I understand the direction. The direction is, look, if somebody hasn't filled their positions in 2 years, maybe they don't need those positions. It is not a good position to be in when you can't fill in your positions, whether it's a juvenile court or whether it's IT, because those positions were argued at some particular point in time with the BRT, and they said it was okay. So I don't think it's because of lack of wanting to fill those positions. It's because you're competing with the private sector, and the private sector is winning. And you know why they're winning, according to me? Because they're paying better. They're giving them better working conditions. And maybe not working conditions, I shouldn't say that. Maybe they're just paying them better. And they think they're making more money, so they have more money. They don't understand they're spending it on the things that we're providing them. And
that's my point, Mr. Chair. If we don't start addressing those, honestly, for the county to have positions that pay minimum wage,
I agree.
Honestly, I just really don't understand that. Because every year it's gonna be the same thing that we're catching up. Minimum wage is gonna keep on going. So we either get to a point that we attract good employees, but paying good, or we're always gonna be on the same position.
Well, why don't we just make a policy?
Well,
I have a policy.
We need to start looking at that.
I have a policy
That's
that
my
says
whole point.
the county will always pay $1 above minimum and then set it, and then always be ahead, because otherwise it's a catch-up game, and we're always catching up. And it's 11:21, and I'd like to get you out before lunch, so let's move it on.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify though, just so that everybody understands, we're looking at almost 3.4 million in new expenditures just on wages, right?
No.
What is it? Well, with the new full-time positions plus the raises.
Oh, market and reclassifications, is that? Oh, the 20 positions. The 20 positions you mean, right?
What is
the new
what are
FTEs,
the
the
new
20
expenditures on wages? Just to put it into perspective. Okay, and maybe, Mr. Chairman, I didn't clarify enough. What is the total amount of new expenditures for wages that we're being asked to consider? Not necessarily just the new full-time positions, the raises with the steps.
So it would include the ongoing, so it would be those plus the 1,349 down, keep going down, Gil, and the 668 for the market studies and reclassifications. Those are ongoing. The others are not. So that's related to, and that is 4,300,000.
4,300,000.
Yes.
So that's our new expenditures, recurring expenditures.
If you do the 5% increase.
And if we do the 4%, it would
Then
be
it's
half a million.
minus
less.
486.
Minus 486. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but
You know what? I always
So
said,
did you wanna get
this is a
consensus on
situation with the county. We don't sell anything but service, and service has to be done by someone. So, it's kind of tough, because that's really the only thing that can that we can grow.
So adding that additional 1% above plus the new positions, how do we balance that out as far as paying for it? Where is that going to come from additionally?
Well, again, what I'd like to do is get some kind of direction of what you want to consider or not consider. And if that's something you want to consider, we'll put it on the list. And then we'll go down the rest of the list because we still have a few other items that the board has talked about wanting to potentially do. But we want to get consensus on what those things are that we want to plug in.
So
is it 4 or 5?
I think Supervisor Linus just want to make a point that that's what it all total out in terms of employees.
We're almost at 5 million.
Almost at 5 million. Supervisor Simmons, do you have something?
No, just kind of putting it all together. I mean, you know, we talk about a pay hike, and we've already heard about employees we're losing to better paying jobs, and what's it gonna cost us to turn around and train new people to fill those jobs that we're losing? You know, it's a cycle, and where do we stop it? You know, so right now, just trying to figure it out.
All right, what else do we got?
There is the request by Supervisor Pancrezi to consider $11,700 for U of A cooperative extension.
Maybe Russ should have gone first, Mr. Chairman, because now, you know.
Russ, can you come up and explain it? Mr. Chair,
We ran out of money, Russ.
Sorry.
Good morning. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come back. So just as a kind of background, if I'm fully staffed, I have around 21 employees. 4 of those are funded through county funds that you provide. And I think it comes to 100, last year it came to 122,000 out of the 125 we got. The rest was for operations, equipment, et cetera. The rest of the positions I have are grant funded or state funded. We're not asking for new positions or anything like that. We're asking for just basically the cost of living. When you're talking about giving employees a 5% raise, that's not included. You are giving me exactly the same amount as you gave me last year with no increase whatsoever. So the people I have on state fund or on county funding will get nothing. And so that was what we were thinking around a 3% or 3.5%. The university has asked us to give or told us to give all employees a 3.5%, but they don't give me funding to increase my county funded positions. Yeah. So I have one position that's fully funded. That's the 4-H position. Then I have 3 positions that are, one of them's like 15% funded, 20% funded for the other one, and a 50% funded for the other one.
So if I hear correct, what you're saying is, look, if you're going to adjust everybody's salary, you need to account for that in my budget.
It would be nice, yes, thank you.
And what would that be? It isn't the total.
If you're doing the 5%, so we had 120. Ours is 3.5 to 6.
Right.
They told us a range of 3.5 to 6.
I know. So anyway,
I don't have.
Calculate that. Can you calculate that, and we'll make sure that your employees get the adjustment.
That 5%. Okay, and then we asked for just small increase for additional travel. I mean, it was a couple thousand or $1,000 because we're doing more travel now because COVID's done, and then we asked for like $1,000 more for equipment. But if you give us the 5%,
I'll be happy.
I'll be happy.
All right. So let's make that adjustment and let's find out how much it is, and we will discuss it at the end with everything else. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So what's next?
For calculation purposes, I'm just going to add the additional 11,000 that was originally requested and not approved.
11.7?
11,760.
That's
So
not
might not
exactly
be
what
all.
you said, but-
That's 9%.
Yeah, look, I know that this is going to take some thinking around with the figures, but either, we basically what he said, and I heard is, look, when you give us the same budget as last year, but you increase the salaries by 5%, you need to, increase their allocation for salaries by 5%. Then he said, we requested a couple of additional $1,000 for travel. He liked us to consider that. And I said, fine. Whatever that 5% for the employees and the $2,000 for additional travel, that's what we will consider there at the end, okay? Whatever that is, right? Okay. All right. What else is there, Susan?
There was a request to consider the animal control officer in the health department.
Mr. Chairman, and if it's all right with Lynn, me and Diane were talking afterwards, and we're looking at some other ways maybe to increase our activity out that way without going with the route. But if you want to tell Tony to tell.
That is correct. So,
Excuse me, what is your name?
my name is Diana Gomez.
Oh,
I'm the
okay.
Director of Public. And we are looking at exploring different options. We have 4 staffs. Again, distance is our issue. We're going to look at the functioning of the program, and we discussed possibly partnering with other entities to a study to see how we can again streamline. We're pretty successful. We basically have, as far as procuring grant funds, animal control, there's certain programs that, there's just no grant funding for, that being one of them. So in lieu of requesting a position, we're trying to figure out if we can partner with some of the jurisdictions to see how we can address those needs, and then come back and look at it after we have all the data and figure out if we do in fact want to proceed with the position, or if there's some sort of hybrid arrangement that we can come up with where we're partnering with other jurisdictions to expand the scope of our service.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I think we may be able to find someone that can help out.
And
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Like I said, we talked and.
Funding in a line item, but it wouldn't be the equivalent of what the position would cost. So it would probably be a quarter.
We will. Do you want us to consider that when you're ready through the contingency accounts that we have?
Having a line item increase to account for that, and that would be like contracting services for the most part. So we can enter into some MOUs, and that would address some.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Gomez. So what's next, Susan?
22.
That one didn't. And thank you again, Diana, and Supervisor Simmons for working
So
on it.
there was a request by Supervisor Pancrezi to look at the legal secretary for the county attorney's office, which is $43,293 ongoing expenses and $2,500 one-time expenses.
No computers allowed. No, I'm just kidding. We're dark already, so whatever web you have, it's just dark web.
You've been waiting all day to say that.
I didn't bring my paperwork because, as I said, it wasn't my intent to dispute this
Yes.
not being recommended. However, these were the 2 top requests I did have was the IT position and this one. I withdrew a training one. The consolation of not having this position is that the programs will either continue to stay as they are or will shrink, which would cause me to come back again next year with the same request. Currently, so you understand, in February is when we started Veterans Court of last year. It's increased from 3 to 4 times they meet a week in court. The attorneys, there's approximately 4, let's say there's 4 or 5 that run those programs from my office. All their data and information is kept by 1 legal secretary, 3, who also keeps all stats, keeps all notes, and attends all these sessions. And it's just strapped. The program, I guess that's what happens when you get successful at these programs, is they just get busy and they tend to work. And I think the outcome of these programs is, in the end, you have a more meaningful, predictive citizen opportunity and less reoccurring or that all have an underlying factor, either behavioral health or addiction of some sort that the courts you heard today help address. I do have my specialty court attorney here today. I asked her to come in if you have questions specific to the program. I know you want to move fast, but the simple thing is the program's either going to stay stagnant this year or shrink, from my standpoint.
Is that Mary?
That's Mary White, who's behind me, and her legal secretary, 3, who, they can get deeper in the weeds if that's what you want, but I know we're.
Any questions? Do you want to get deeper in the weed?
I want to make sure we find some funds for it.
Right. Well, put it up on the list for the end. You don't need to get deeper in the weeds than that. Okay, thank you. Mary, thank you for being here. Mary.
Job of preventing people from going to jail.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Oh, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, according to the package, the legal secretary request was $43,293 for the new position and $2,500 one-time recurring supplies. I'm just going to include everything under the supplies, under the personnel for this time.
Right.
And the last item is Judge Guerrero had requested moving Justice Clerk 2 to the general fund, which the BRT did not recommend.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, I'm going to do my best to stand in and answer what questions that I may have regarding this. I'm not sure if Judge Guerrero had something to tend to. I expected that he was going to stay, but I've always indicated to all the judges that I would stand in and present for them when the need arises. So the request, I'm sure, is listed, was to transfer a half position currently funded under Judge Guerrero's special revenue to the county general fund. From what I see in terms of the numbers, that expense would be $18,576. Historically, obviously, times change. As you know, we've adjusted the fees that are collected that go into special revenue. Special revenue, obviously, within the different courts' budgets, cover salaries for positions and other things as well. I believe that Judge Guerrero mentioned that his request in this change had to do with training items for his staff. He mentioned them being cross-trained and the importance of their training and commended them. My understanding is that his expense within the budget for specifically travel and training is around $2,000. So I'm sure that his position is that that's not sufficient to address not only his training needs, but that of his staff. There has been a history, admittedly, since my time on the bench, in which Justice Court Precinct 2's special revenue serves as kind of the bellwether. As theirs starts to reverse and trend down, so to eventually do the other justice courts, there's typically zero outs first, and then next is coming Justice Court Precinct 1, followed by Justice Court Precinct 3. I think the position of the county historically has been, since it's collecting and generating money in special revenue, if they're unable to collect that full portion, then the county would step up and pay whatever of that may remain, rather than picking up a full position or a half position permanently under county general fund. I would say for the court itself, Judge Guerrero's judicial productivities credits are the highest that he's seen since taking office. I think part of it really has been an increase in cases with the cross-border traffic, so I don't know how long that's going to maintain. Along those lines, I know that there's been effort on the part of Imelda. She's here to answer any questions you may have. Martine Mendez, the court administrator, is here to answer questions as well if you have any. But I think through some of Imelda's efforts, that fund balance has actually increased more recently, maybe because of the increase of cases. But the fund balance has been trending upward. I know that that the projected fund balance for fiscal year 21-22 was $67,425.77. That's actually down a bit from the actual for fiscal year 2021. But I do think that whatever calculations she may have used, if not mistaken, her projection for fund balance for fiscal year 22-23 was around $80,000. Obviously, the original intent of special revenue was to address things as they come available, meaning maybe a copy machine goes down or something like that, maybe a scanning machine, something that's imperative to the court's operation continuing. So there's those funds available to keep the court from having to go back before the board in session, trying to purchase things, secure the funds for things that are imperative to continuing operation. Whenever a fund balance obviously goes to zero, it prevents that avenue. But obviously, Judge Gross positioned briefly before the board, not a presentation, but obviously mentioned his concern regarding travel and training. So.
Oh, okay. So this is not new. The judge has been trying to move that position to the county since I think I've been here. You know, it's a position that, it's a situation that he finds himself when that fund just sort of goes down. He starts to feel concerned that it may not be enough, and he can't really justify other things because it really doesn't have the funds for it. This is not actually the case now. I think the situation has now sort of kind of like swung, the pendulum's on the other way now. So it's just a matter of policy here. Do we want that position to be part of the general fund and allow those funds to be spent for what they're supposed to be, not salaries necessarily? Or do we continue with this and hope the fund continues to get healthy and it can cover that cost plus? It's a policy decision as far as I'm concerned, because all we're doing is moving up half a position either to the general fund or leaving it at the courts for the courts to handle it, to pay for it. I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but I've always wanted to do that, but I'd never seen enough justification. And I think the only justification that works for us is if you run out of funds. I mean, we obviously have to do it because they have to get paid. But I mean, it's just tough. It's tough to make that argument when your fund is healthy.
And thinking as to what I would say, and I certainly hesitate to bring back up issues of market studies and things like that. But obviously, with the filling of positions, if salaries increase, if there are a 3 or 5% increase in special revenue, obviously it comes from that fund balance. I mean, we'll just have to wait to see what impact that may or may not be. So many things right now are in flux because of COVID and operations and cross-border traffic. And so obviously everything is in a state of flux.
Yeah, this is a weird year for sure. And I'm not sure that what is happening right now is reflective of what will happen in the future. But we get to make decisions based on what's happening now, thinking about the future. Like I said, I would support moving that to the general fund personally. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but you know, I would. So we'll add it to that at the end, to the cost, and then we'll make a decision. Okay? Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right, so those are all the positions that were asked to be considered. And by now, I think Hills is running a total, I guess, of what all these decisions would mean in terms of a total. So what are we looking at?
I haven't.
Yeah, I know it's tough, guys, because we're asking you to do this while the thing is moving, but, you know, it's... I don't know what to do. So those are the three. Let's just go summarize it. The three, you keep doing that, Hill. But the three items that we had on IT are the ones that he's putting in there right now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, yes, this is exclusively the three items that were identified. This is a one-time of 8,900 and the sum of all three.
Recurring of 59.
Recurring 59,448.
Supervisor Lange mentioned. Okay, so what else? What else did we say we're going to consider?
Go back up a little bit, Gil. So this includes, although you didn't articulate as a consensus yet on the 5%, this
so
includes
it
the
includes-
5%. It also includes the U of
The
A additional,
stuff,
the
the
legal
legal
secretary,
Mm-hmm.
in the county attorney's office. Oh, you didn't include the
Court.
shift from the justice court. The 18,576.
All right, so what was the total that we have to get from someplace? And we'll go back to John.
What is it?
Can you,
Oh, it's fine. I think it's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Gil, can you create a total over in the next column with the add-ons, just the add-ons?
Including the 5%, correct?
Yeah.
The one additional 1%.
Yeah.
I would just,
That would be
instead of
1%
K
of
seventy,
that.
put,
So half of that.
okay,
Oh, maybe, yeah.
yeah, K 70 divided by 2. No, it's not 403. No,
Well,
no, it's not 403, it's the 486. It's the half of the, there you go. Oh, just do that. Just do 48600. Okay, all right, whatever. Okay. So,
So the legal
adding-
secretary includes the $2,500 that was one-time expenses, right?
the, go down to the IT stuff.
That's not.
So we need to add those two together.
869.
keyboard's not working, plus.
We're having technical difficulties.
Okay. You're adding $631,000.
In there.
So we'll go down to the bottom line under the fund balance so we can look at the impact.
That, the 631,000 is just based on personnel increases, right? Other than budgeted ones.
631.
Yeah, the U of A additional, the legal secretary, and the clerk.
And the
They're in
IT.
1%.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what you've just done today. In this meeting, you've just added 631,000. So then we go down to the bottom line to see what it looks like. And we still need to talk to the board about what you want to
Wait,
do on debt service.
Back up a little bit, back up a little bit.
Debt service.
Okay, that's up on top. And then the other expenses, the IT expenses, where were they considered at? They're in, already up? They're already-
31.
They're one time and
All in
recurring.
there,
All right,
631.
okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is the spreadsheet that we're presented to you during the recommended budget and when we had our one-on-ones meetings for the general fund. Fairly quickly, it's just a summary of all revenues, expenditures that we have in the recommended budget and the adjustments that we have done. We also include all the capital outlays, supplies and services, and all our transfers out. Once again, I want to draw your attention to the projected debt service payment that we're going to have in the future for the buildings that we are considering to be in construction. Total for those new debt would be around $4.7 million. If we go to the bottom line, then by design, our uses are going to exceed our resources by $4.3 million for all the changes that we have done. Again, for the difference between our beginning balance and minus our deficiencies and sources, everything is going to be in contingency. So for contingency, we usually have our $500,000 for the board disposal. This year, we're adding a new requirement from ADEQ. This is for the cleanup mitigation that we're doing for the Adair part. This is a number that I got from Public Works. We have been working very closely with ADEQ, and they have some financial requirements that they want us to somehow disclose in our financials to assure financial ability to cover the expenses in the event that there's a disaster in that area. The total is $423,000. We have added this year a 5% future recession. Now, 5% of the total uses, the more that we put in uses, the more that this is going to increase or decrease. We have our two policy contingency, 50% emergency, 5% stabilization fund. So 16.9 and $5.6 million. In order for us to balance the budget, we'll still have available resources of around $18.4 million. Right now, our fund balance is around 42.25%.
So we know where the money can come from. The question is whether that will recur every year. That's the idea. Well, we have like, in the fund balance and reserves, we have 42%. We have $18 million extra. This is not a normal year. I wouldn't assume that you're going to have that kind of reserves, especially considering the fact that.
Mr. Sherman,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah. I think Gil was going to answer that.
Yeah, the recommended budget calls for a buy down from a debt service, whatever funds were available, that would have a significant impact on what we're going to have to finance for the new buildings. So I have included an amortization schedule to give you an idea. What would the payments be for the buildings that we have Right now, we are considering the full $68.2 million. I think this was from the presentation from the construction manager last February.
Right.
If we are to use any of the available funds, that's going to have a significant impact to the amount of money that we're going to transfer and the amount of money that we're required to be paid.
When do you calculate that the financing will be available?
We're looking right now, we issue an RFP early March to get the financial advisor. We have awarded the RFP to Stifel, and we've been working with them. We already had 2 meetings. We're going through the different scenarios. We're scheduling to have a study session this May 16. If everything goes according to plan, we're hoping to have a closed deal by early August.
A close deal, you mean you're going to be ready to go out in the market and get financing? And you're going to get the financing for everything, even though we're not using it right there.
That's the number that I'm trying to find out, Mr. Chairman. Exactly how much do I need to go out and issue bonds for? And a lot has to do with what are we going to do, what's going to be the decision with this available funds. The recommended budget is, of course, applying as much as we can, close to $17 million to this cost. In addition, we have a commitment from the Health Services Department for $2 million.
All right. So we basically went through this whole process and we ended up with, quote, a deficit of an extra expense of $632,000.
And Mr. Chair, I just talked with Diana Gomez about the animal control officer, the contractual amount to include instead of the need for the animal control officer, and she was estimating $30,000, so we would still need to add that to the expenditures. So if you would add that $30,000.
That will be in Health Department.
Oh, it wouldn't be in general
It
fund,
wouldn't be
okay,
general
never
fund.
mind.
Oh, okay.
It'll be in the health department, so they can afford that.
I thought I said that if they came down with that, they could always come for the POS emergency fund, but, I'm not even going to go there. So, no, we're 630. We need to find out where we're going to get 630 or 660. With 630 because the other one's the health department.
At this point, bottom line, it's going to come out of your ability to use cash toward financing the buildings.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
Mr.
don't
Chairman,
find.
Gil, you had 3.5% Fed's meeting today. Any indication other than going up? I mean, probably looking at another percent by the time we get ready to finance those bonds.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lyons, conversations again with the financial advisor looking at the current market, and we feel that we can still be under 3% if we do this by August. Actually, they really like our credit history, they really like our financing, and some of them are willing to do premiums, pay us a little extra in exchange of our higher bond interest rate per se. So that will save us some money. Overall, right now, I'm looking around 3% financing.
So you've overestimated by 0.25.
That's okay.
Okay.
These are also estimates,
Yeah.
round estimates of the actual building costs, which will likely go up as well. I think we've already got
I think
an
everything is an
of-
estimate, including the budget.
Be higher than the 36.8.
And Mr. Chairman, to that point, I mean, we're looking at a 15% to 25%, as you well know, above last year's construction costs.
It's so unpredictable. We began with a project that was like $10 million. It's now at $37 million. I mean, it's just not, it's not really a science that you can actually use. This is a moving target. But whatever the moving target is, we do know at this particular time that we have a $630,000 get from somewhere. And obviously, Susan has just basically brought out the fact that we do have a cash balance about reserves. Either we choose to spend it here, or we choose to bring down the cost of the whole project that we don't know what the cost is going to be. We may be putting in 15 million, we may be putting in 16, we may be putting in 17. We still don't know what the impact of that's going to be. This is a decision the board needs to make.
And Mr. Chairman, I have some reservations just because when you consider economic indicators, we don't necessarily have a healthy economy. And projecting out 1 year and the additional squeeze on the economy for taxes going up just based on the valuations here, that.
Well, let me give you a counterpoint for that. We just set aside $5 million for a possible recession,
Sure.
which may or may not happen.
Sure.
But there is $5 million there to protect us from that, speculative situation. So it's pretty safe to say that $630,000 isn't going to break or make us. It is just a matter of deciding whether we're willing to spend it or not.
But Mr.
on
Chairman,
this.
it's not just that 600,000.
What is it?
It's the additional raises.
Well, that is the 600,000 that I'm talking about, the additional raises and the additional expenses. That is it. That includes everything.
That was 1.3.
No.
This recommended budget includes all estimated
That already
revenues
included
and all
everything.
estimated expenses with
Well,
the
we
bottom
are,
line of.
all we did was discuss this morning an additional 630, including that 1% additionally. That 1% was 480,000. The rest of the small stuff that we approved for IT, the positions that we approved add up to $630,000 altogether, including that one additional 1%. What we've got in front of us is the need to make a decision. We have made decisions regarding a possible recession. We have made decisions regarding the one I looked at, it was a cash balance reserve, it was $19 million. It was mentioned as 18, which is fine with me. It's still above reserve policy. It's still above the 15% that we normally set aside. So I'd say, okay, well, is this the year we're going to spend a little bit more on employees and a little bit more on those positions that we talked about, a little more in cybersecurity? It seems to me like the board made the decision to get to this end. So now the decision is, where's the money coming from if we're going to do it? So why don't we just get into the decision-making process and finding out where it's coming from? I'd say it's coming from the cash balance above reserves policy, which is what Susan just mentioned a minute ago. And I'd say that if we made a policy decision to put as much of that money into the construction budget, I still think we can. I mean, we have made some decisions already that put us into a situation that we can deal with a possible recession. We can deal with an increase in interest rates a little bit. That's always a speculative process. This in front of us is a real process. Now, that adds $600,000 to the budget every year from now on. I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Most of these expenses are recurring expenses. So we need to make sure that we understand that.
Mr. Chairman, does that 600 include that additional one step?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the total. That's the total we came up with at the end of this.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Yesterday I mentioned that position for
ARPA, the ARPA position.
The broadband.
The broadband.
Manager. I think you're going to find out if it's
qualifies.
Qualifies for, and if it's for 1 year or 2 years, that's fine. I mean, I understand that we need to put it in our general fund, but once this broadband gets going and completed, there'll be money from the fees that will eventually pay for that position, which is
right. Yeah. Right.
But if this year we can, if you can find out, and if that can be done, that eliminates $98,000, and so that'll bring down that 600 and something.
I don't know. I don't think that was included. I don't remember this. It's
Yeah,
included?
it's included.
Well, then fine. Better yet.
So.
Okay, good. Good catch.
I'm taking care of you.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. He's stressing me out. He's taking care of me. I mean, obviously,
So,
this works
so-
this way. I got here.
Probation, no, they don't.
What is going on? All right, so the decision is there. We need to vote on the budget, on the tentative budget. He'll come back to us again May 16 as a budget, as a tentative budget. Are we all okay with this?
But just, we want to make sure that you're giving us every possible thing that should be included, because when we bring that the tentative, that is the maximum budget you can adopt. So at this point, I would keep the
I would say
broadband
we
manager
get moving
position
and
in
put a
the
cap on this
budget.
thing
And then if
before
we take it out, it would be between tentative and adopted. So you're not,
Okay.
so we don't,
Yeah,
just to make
so-
sure.
To make sure, yeah, and that way you can eliminate it.
If we take it out now, we can't put it in later.
Million something. And it's the money's there. The money's in the budget. It's already in the budget. No, the question he had was about the debt service and about the final cost of the construction. I said the final cost of the construction is unpredictable, but based on the numbers you have right now, That's already in that budget, that 2 point some million.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
But if it's more, we're gonna have to adjust it as it comes in. And I don't think it'll come in that quickly. I think it's gonna take time. I mean, the building, I think estimated in the construction is 2024 for the administrative building. I don't know about the health I don't even know if we're gonna be able to begin construction of the health building and some of the other ones that we have there. But I know we're gonna have a payment to make, and that's what you're predicting here, you know, what the payment will be. You're not saying, obviously, that we'll start making the payments like July, but you're saying sometime in August, or a little after August, we're going to have to make a commitment to sell those bonds and begin the process of paying them down, right? And you have included that in the budget. That's the
Mr. Chairman,
2.5
yes,
and
this is the
1.1.
budget for 22-23.
It is included in the.
So during that fiscal year, we are projecting that we're going to have at least one payment for the debt service.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I'm done. Are we ready to tell the staff that that is the preliminary budget and to have everything ready for us by May 16? If anything changes between now and then, we still have a chance to, you know, you will still have a chance to know if the ARPA fund is going to be able to cover that position. There may be some adjustment made, but this is the cap, I think. I like to keep it as a cap. That is it. Right, this is the cap. Otherwise, we will continue finding more ways to spend more money. I hate to sound like a Republican, but that's how I sound. Can't help it.
You're such a fiscal conservative, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Well, are we okay?
I'm okay with
Shall we vote on it? Can we vote on it? Okay, well, then I need a motion, and a second, to approve the tentative budget tentatively.
So moved.
Is there a second?
No, there is
Second.
All right, everybody, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. What, you're not voting?
I said aye.
Okay, aye. It was a very weak aye. I couldn't hear it.
It was
And
a
he
laid
just
back.
tried to go like, go, go. Remember, this is a tentative budget. It still
I'll
can
vote
be
on a
changed.
tentative budget, but I'm still concerned about inflation.
Yeah, it is. It is a concern. All right, so we voted on tentative budget. It was 5-0.
You're voting to
No, I mean, excuse
make
me,
the
to make-
changes that you discussed
changes we
today
just
in
said.
order to create the tentative budget that we brought to you.
Yeah, that
on
was
May
my motion,
16th.
yes. I mean, that was, excuse me, that was.
Did
Mr.
everybody
Royce's
vote,
vote.
or did-
Yes, everybody voted. They were very weak votes, but, you know, if you listen carefully, you would hear them. I had to strain my ears to hear, you know, it was barely able to eke it out. but-
With the exception
Hey,
of,
everybody,
with the
thank you.
exception
This
of
has
the
been a
word
tough
tentative, I
process,
wouldn't have
but-
done it.
Yeah.
Tentative, yes.
So it's
Okay.
tentative, all right? So,
Got it,
yeah,
yeah.
all 5 voted. Okay, is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Before I go cry out in the bathroom? Yeah.
Gil, can we look at some projections with a
Inflationary guide in there.
inflationary, because in that meeting last week, they talked about an additional 20% over the top of this year and what that would look like with construction costs. And how that debt adjustment would look at, the debt service would look at, for example, if it got up to 85 million, based on the projections of the Harvard study with whom I was meeting with last week.
Most definitely, Supervisor Lyons, we'll
Thank you.
have some numbers for you.
For May 16th?
Yes.
For May 16th.
That's what I thought.
Or if you have the projections to share with the board prior to that meeting.
Mhm.
Thank you, everybody. Your patience, you were patient. You were great. Thank you very much. It's a tough process all the time, but you guys make it a lot easier. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, me.